Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So, a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Eric Troche, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Goldie McKinnon, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fibre Oats, Michael Kahn, Rob H, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Leon Regic Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic Line 36, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Used and just find something that's so embarrassing on someone you can't help but giggle, like a little schoolgirl.
Oh, wait, what did you say you've been looking at?
The Haversine formula. I looked it up. You know, I knew what it did, but like, I just kind of started reading about it. You know, there's some interesting stuff about it.
Okay, tell me more.
Okay, the Haversine formula only works longitudinally, right? It doesn't work latitudinally.
Okay, a bit like the AE map, right?
Right. Well, see, the thing is, on a sphere at the equator, that point, it should work there.
Hold on. Now I'm already confused. You've only been saying it for 2 seconds. Should be working at the equator. I've no idea what you mean by that.
Well, the equator is the only point in latitude that is equal to all the points of longitude on a sphere.
Okay.
It doesn't work there for some reason. They don't know. Don't ask.
Okay, fine. Anything else?
Well, it shows in the diagrams where the angle is taken from the center of Earth out to the. Like, where did
It's got the globe.
Get this angle?
It's the globe burger. Okay.
No, it's worse than the globe burger. It's saying that like there's some little dude on the inside of Earth who's measuring the angle out to the surface. And I don't. But it's all in Wikipedia right there, just waiting for somebody to come and laugh at it.
So in the Wikipedia description of the Haversine formula, they've got what we basically talk about on an almost daily basis, which is to say that the angle measurement, we would describe it as follows. The angle measurement comes from the centre of a sphere Earth. Here's the diagram showing the angle coming from a globe burger centre with the northern hemisphere around it in infinite distance according to their relinquishment of the actual distances in a heliocentric model. And then also the globe surrounding that flat plane, hence you've got this angle coming from the centre. But you're saying that in Wikipedia the diagram actually has a dude stood in the middle of globe Earth taking the angle.
Well, not exactly, but that's where all their math is done, is inside the sphere, not outside of it, inside the sphere.
Right. Yeah, because that's the only place it works, because you've got the celestial sphere wrapped around the flat plane and then the globe wrapped around the inside of that. So you've got to be at the centre of the sphere that represents the hemisphere of the heavens with a flat plane reaching out to it along the horizontal axis. Therefore, the redundant globe bit is sort of put in afterwards and ends up being you at the centre of a globe Earth in the core, taking a measurement with your sextant.
basically, but they got it drawn out pretty well, and uh, I don't know. I'll have
That
to
does
read
kind of
over
lead
some
me
more
to
of it.
Given how you're describing it right now, don't get me wrong, I've never looked up the Haversine formula. My limited understanding of it is based on what you've told me. But based on my limited understanding of what you've told me, I've still come to question, based on me understanding what it does, how could a globe believer look at this and not appreciate that it's literally telling you that you're measuring it from a flat Earth? Now, if you're saying that in the actual description and the diagrams, it shows you that, it does raise the question again. How can a globe believer look at this and go, this is how we measure a globe from the middle of it off a flat plane? I don't see how that can't just leave you in total cognitive pain.
Good morning.
Morning.
Isn't this obvious why, after seeing what I saw, I came on your show, started dripping everything?
No, I get it. I absolutely appreciate and understand people's motivation in coming here. You want to disseminate the better information out to the general masses after you come across it and go, oh my God, you need a flat Earth to measure an angle. Or the Haversine formula puts you at the middle of a globe Earth with the angle taken from a flat plane. Or whatever it is that you want to disseminate. So I totally understand and empathise.
Well, before you draw that arc or that half circle, semi-hemisphere, or a full circle, just draw a horizontal line and then measuring it from a flat plane. That is the Earth measurement. We are on a flat, irregular plane.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
and then they do the Haversine, which is a projection back from the celestial sphere imaginary model to 2 points on the curved surface. So they have to do extra math in the Haversine to make the arc to be drawn over that horizontal plane. But originally, there is no arc.
Well, it's not quite projected back. It's close to it, but not quite. What they're doing is taking a point source, right, and projecting that out around them.
Well, in the writing that I put up, I'm not arguing with you. In the writing I put up, they say from that horizontal plane is projected outwards. So just think of a horizontal plane and then an angle projected outwards. So forget the arc of the Earth at this point. So this angle is projected outward until it hits the concave, the inside, the inner walls of a celestial sphere that's imaginary. So now, then from there, it's projected back to the surface of this arc that they put, and that's how they do the Haversine. That's what I've put up as citations.
I've got an introduction to plane astronomy. Is that yours?
Yeah, I want to go over that after John's done here.
Okay.
Well, I just wanted to say that what they're doing is, have you ever seen Tony Stark's little thing where he grabs the small little dot and then he throws it out and it's all this information around him?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that, but it's with the Earth. I shit you not.
No,
That's
you're
all
right.
that.
You're right. But that's what I've been saying. You've been saying, we've all been saying. But when you go to the actual written record of it, it comes from the center, which is just a horizontal plane, goes to the inner surface of a celestial sphere, and then from there it's projected back, and that's when they apply the Haversine. I'll find all those things again. We've shown them before, but it really doesn't matter the methodology. It does. You need a plane.
Well, right, but they may say that so that they can ignore the fact that they're actually projecting the sphere out from a single point,
Well,
like,
that's not debated. That they are doing that. Yeah.
But how can
I
you
don't
do
think that's
that?
debated.
How can, as a globe believer, I mean, I know we take the mickey out of Ruhif a lot, but in a more empathetic way, how can he cognitively process that? It would be beyond my means to do that, is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to offer admiration to Rufi for doing this, just trying to comprehend it in my own way. How can someone like Ruhus look at that and go, yeah, I get how this projection from the centre of a sphere Earth that's going to be projected out based on the measurements taken from a plane and an infinitely distant concave inside of a celestial sphere. Now, if he can wrap his head around the maths, he can wrap around his head around the implications of that, right? Surely.
Well, Nathan, it happened yesterday with the ether. How could they do that?
Well, I don't know. I can't defend why they do it, but I would just like them to acknowledge they're doing it. I don't know if you've seen where I sent you that message, Nathan, but it has to do with the calculation, because it is in essence a transformative equation that they're applying. And what are you applying that transformative equation to? You know?
Where is it? Is it in reacted philosophy? Refracted, sorry.
No, I sent it to your private messages.
In Skype?
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. I have an idea for a new housekeeping question, or at least a supplemental one. In the celestial sphere model, what is the transformative equation known as Haversine formula applied to? Yeah, I like it a lot.
John just said something, and what he said is what we've been doing. The way you just said it, John, is we are showing him that. We are showing him how their model has been constructed from a flat plane. That's the whole point. Now, whether they want to see it or not, after using their own citations from their own books that all talk about a sphere to be assumed, and then working off of that rather than proving a sphere first, rather than assuming one.
Well, the thing is they're never going to admit to you that they're applying a transformative equation to Earth, right?
But they don't have to. I could prove it. I don't need their validation.
But they know they're using the Haversine formula. So why are you using it? If you're on a sphere taking a measurement from a sphere, all measurements should be from a sphere. Why are you applying this equation?
That was the point when I brought up the PCX triangle, the navigational triangle that's projected back down from the celestial sphere. That was the whole point for that. But we're just saying it in different ways. Why are you doing this? Why do you need the planes? Why do you need a sensible horizon? Why do you need a rational horizon? Why do you need a geoidal horizon? Why do you need the visual horizon? Why do you need all these horizons? There's only one horizon.
Yeah, I mean, that deals with the flat plane, but the Haversine is the exact moment where they create the globe.
Right.
At that moment.
Indeed, and I don't want that to get brushed by the wayside. No offense, 10th, and I appreciate what you're saying. We've gone through this. We have in a roundabout.
No, I want to go through it. I want to go through more with John because Brian did like a couple of videos on the Haversine months and months ago. John has done great work with the Haversine. I think it's a killer point, so I'm not begrudging any of it. I'm just saying that all of us, we have been going through this, and the penny hopefully will finally drop for everybody. Go on.
Well, I do believe Brian came up with it a couple of weeks ago, but there we go. In terms of credit, we'll brush past that for the moment.
Well, no, he's got videos posted that are longer than a couple of weeks ago.
Indeed. In any event, the point that the point that John's trying to labour is, I completely agree with, and it's the reason I've been calling the last few shows things like the cutting edge of flat Earth and so on, because what John just summarised a moment ago, the Haversine formula is the moment that they go from measuring a flat plane to transforming that flat plane they measured into a sphere. That's pretty critical. That's a critical detail in their claim, because they have to apply a transformative equation to a flat plane measurement. Super powerful
Agreed.
stuff.
100% agreed. Let's keep piling on.
Amazing. I'd never even heard of it. Haversine. Till you guys brought it up. But yeah, that's the key to to the narrative, to the story that is a globe Earth, the Haversine formula takes the measurements from a flat plane and applies this equation to turn it into a globe. That's the bottom line. Here's how the globe was created. It's taken from flat Earth measurements. Here's your transformative equation that takes a flat plane and makes it globe-shaped.
Yeah, in fact, we don't even have to bring it up. I believe Ruth brought it up.
He did. That's how he, because he had already basically found his coordinates when I was listening to his ridiculous, just like jabbering 25-minute video. But then he applied Haversine so that he could show me a ball with circles drawn on it. And I was like, well, hold on a minute. Crazy.
I remember that. No, it's you know what it is, Nathan. It's the penny is dropped, but the penny is getting shinier and shinier as we keep talking about this. Like all of these things we've talked about before, but as we all keep talking, and Flatsoy puts out videos, and Brian puts out videos, and John comes in with the way he sees things and says things, and the citations that we've seen, they all start forming this argument into like really rock hard to beat. And this is where we're at. And this has always been, how do you get a sphere? How do you pre-assume you live on a sphere when an angle measurement, especially an elevation angle measurement, requires a flat baseline?
By using the Haversine formula.
Although it was rhetorical, the way your question's phrased is quite interesting because it shows a change in our attitude, if you like, moving forward. So your statement was, how do you assume you are on a sphere? And the answer to that question, surprisingly, is they don't. They measure a flat Earth and then apply a transformative equation to it, as opposed to just presupposing it.
I would call that actuality, but if you go to the 2 slides I put in Master B, I'll validate why I said assume.
Okay.
So this is Introduction to Plane Astronomy for the use of colleges and schools by Philip Thomas Maine, et cetera, 1868. Now, this is 1868. We're 2022. Now look at point 4, and this is his proof that we live on a sphere. Now this is quite amazing to me. So point 4, here we go. And feel free to interrupt and answer each one as we go through because there's just 5 of them. So here's 5 reasons why we're on a sphere in 1868. Assuming the Earth to be approximately spherical, we should expect to meet with phenomena which are explained by this supposition and are incompatible with the supposition of its being a plane. Such phenomena abound. Among the most striking are the following. I'll pause there for a minute. What say you of that first underlined?
I take it all back. You continue. Yeah. Okay. I get it. In order for us to assume that we're on a sphere, taking this logic, that is going to be the assumption that we're on a sphere. But to assume we're on a sphere, we've got to go through this process. Here we go. Okay. I'll take it back.
Okay, well, I just want to focus on that first beginning statement because what he's saying here, assuming the Earth to be approximately spherical, we should expect to meet with phenomena. Well, that's what we're saying. We're saying, look, if the Earth is spherical with a radius of 3959, I want to see Earth curve. That's the phenomena. He's saying we should expect to see phenomena, which are explained by this supposition. And then he turns around with the and are incompatible with the another supposition of its being a plane. Now, this is ironic because they use 3 planes. They use the rational horizon, they use the sensible horizon, and they use the visual horizon. So here they are using 3 planes, and he's saying this sentence. This falls apart immediately if you understand what we've dug up on them. Now, to the average reader, this is going to be, oh, yeah, this makes sense. No, it doesn't, because such phenomena abound. Really, for the globe, this phenomena of us being spherical, the proofs abound. Among the most striking are the following. Here's the first. I want you to answer each one as I go through it. The appearance of the offing at the sea as a well-defined circular line. Now, the offing at the sea, which I've shown and we've seen, is if you're in the middle of the ocean and you're on a boat and you turn around 360, you see a full circle like a cone, and you being above the ocean, kind of like a cone look. They're saying that's curvature.
So we only have one horizon, and the horizon in the begging the question proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator is Earth curve in Muppet Vision perspective omitting Muppet Vision. So no, the horizon is not Earth curve, because if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959, then every distance to horizon could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the black swan shows demonstrably that the horizon is beyond the limitations of a sphere Earth radius 3959, therefore the horizon is not Earth curve. So no.
Yeah, good answer, because the offing is the horizon. And I want John to answer number 2. The observed increase of the dip of the horizon with the height of the observer above the Earth's surface.
Right, that's a differential between two planes, the sea level and your eye level, depending on altitude.
Excellent.
That offing one isn't a horizon horizontal? How can it be? Never mind. I'll let you finish them off, Tim, and then I'll go back to that.
Yeah. Well, the offing is basically as far as you could see where the horizon is. And it's flat because you've described what dip is precisely the way you do dip. You're absolutely right. Number 3. Oh, this is good. The manner of disappearance of a ship as it recedes from sight. At first, the apparent size of each part gets smaller and smaller. Oh, really? Sounds like perspective. This goes on till the ship reaches the offing, the horizon. After this, the hull is observed to disappear bit by bit from the lowest to the highest part as it becomes gradually hidden by the sea. In this manner, the hull gradually disappears till none of it is seen while the sails and the masts are still visible. Sounds like all the other bricks on top of the first brick. The sails then disappear in the same gradual manner and leave the top mast alone, visible above the water. This then appears to sink a bit by bit and finally to vanish altogether. Nathan?
So in practical example, you buy a zoom camera with a bigger range and you can bring that hull back because it's down to an optical limitation, which you can calculate with the Rayleigh criterion. Further to that, if I give it in an example, if I were to put a brick on the horizon at a mile, there's a good chance that you could see the brick. If I move that brick to 3 miles, there's a good chance that the brick becomes too small to see and vanishes into the horizon. If I then build a 100-story skyscraper on top of the first brick, that does not bring back the first brick. The first brick is still invisible, i.e. still too small to see at the limitation at the deck due to its limited size. Ergo, at 5 miles, you're missing 1 brick due to the angular limitation and not because there's a physical geometric sphere edge horizon getting in the way. If there was, it would be at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet as declared in the Earth curve mathematics. However, the distance to the horizon in the black swan is beyond the limitations laid down in the Earth curve mathematics, aka 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. So as before, the horizon is not Earth curve.
Yes, and did you notice we got them here on orthographic? Let me read it. The manner of disappearance of a ship as it recedes from sight. At first, now all Earth curve math does leave this out. At first, the apparent size of each part gets smaller and smaller. Is that perspective?
Yes, that's angular size.
He's telling you what's happening.
It gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears behind Earth curve. No, it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it disappears with perspective. Hull first, because that's where the most limited angle resides, against the deck. You can widen your angle to the sky as wide as you like. Hence, there is no limitation to the angle to the sails. However, the limitation to the deck is an angular limitation. Ergo, perspective will cause the brick to disappear at 5 miles because it's too small, but not the building built on top of it. That's an angular limitation, nothing to do with Earth curve.
Excellent, excellent. Very optical. All right, number 4. The apparent positions of the pole star and the constellations vary when seen from different points on the Earth, precisely in the way in which they must appear to vary if these points all lie on the surface of a globe.
You'll need a flat Earth to measure that angular relationship, because that's what they're being described as. So you'll need a flat Earth to make that assertion. Furthermore, you'll need a Haversine formula to imply that the tool and its arc is actually the concave surface you're looking up at when measuring from the centre of said presupposed spherical Earth that you're in the middle of, and measure out from that centre of a presupposed spherical Earth out through the arc of the tool, now the surface of the Earth you're not standing on, out to the celestial sphere around a single position. Like John described earlier, like in Minority Report, when he grabs a little piece of data with his gloves and throws it out all around him. It's single point at the centre of a sphere Earth, the only point you can get an angle with a flat plane moving out from your position. So no, these measurements aren't facilitated on a sphere Earth because you can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curve.
All right, but do you see the hidden reference to R, and it's because of Earth curve that he doesn't say? Let me read it again. The apparent positions of the pole star and the constellations vary. Okay, so high in the sky, mid-height, at the horizon, they vary. When seen from different points on the Earth, precisely in the way in which they must appear to vary if these points all lie on the surface of a globe. He doesn't say why, but he's trying to tell you Earth curve gets in the way.
Gotcha. So he's begging the question, he's assuming the Earth as a sphere with you moving around the protractor of the angle measurement that you take in order for his quote-unquote height adjustments to be in effect.
But you caught it. What kind of measurements did he take?
That description of the heights changing is elevation angle.
Uh-oh.
You need a flat Earth for that.
Yeah, okay, last one. The shadow cast by the Earth on the moon in a lunar eclipse is always bounded by the portion of a circle.
One more time.
The shadow cast by the Earth on the moon in a lunar eclipse is always bounded by a portion of a circle. So basically, the little curved shadow on the moon there, saying that proves that the Earth is a ball.
Don't answer this one. Hold on. Don't answer this one. Let the Globers have faith that that's still a shadow.
Yeah, but it's very important since we're recording this. What's that one video? And it's a term I keep forgetting, where the shadow is the opposite way. If Earth was in the way.
You're talking
Selenelin.
Yeah, I was about to say, you're talking about the Seleninian, where you've got sun and moon above the horizon at the same time, and in the most recent filmed one, which was about 8 years ago now, they had the quote-unquote shadow, i.e. it turning red, going the opposite direction.
How does that work?
Well, it doesn't. But furthermore, for their assertion, don't they need convergent light? I.e. the light from the sun goes to the moon and then converges and then carries on past the moon in an orthographic representation to create the shadow, as opposed to
we got a problem now. Their light rays, their light is no longer parallel, which means celestial navigation cannot work unless light is assumed to be parallel, because you need a corresponding angle back from that plane that you use at the center of the Earth, the great circle cut in half, to where you have equatorial plane. That angle must also work with the angle, with that tangent plane that you have to draw on the assumed sphere, or else you can't get an elevation angle. So you need to bring your flat plane with you wherever you sail and have a section in your hand. Yeah, they're in a bit of a problem when the sun cannot cast out parallel light for the eclipses, but must for celestial navigation to work. If you're going to say, allow me the luxury of drawing a rational plane, a sensible plane, and the actual horizon, and let me have corresponding angles as long as light comes in parallel. Then I can make it work on a piece of paper from a sphere.
Until you mention eclipses and then the light doesn't come in parallel anymore.
Oh, shucks.
Was that the last one?
Yeah, that's it. Oh, that's all he put.
That's all she wrote.
All falls apart. What were we going to do, John, earlier? You wanted to come back to something?
Yeah, the first one, the offing, where he said it was a clearly defined circular line. When you look at the horizon, do you see a circular line?
If you turn around, but no, you see a flat line. But I think he's describing it as though if you rotate through 360 degrees and you're out at sea, excuse me, that would leave you with a circle around you, right?
No,
Yeah,
that's not what he's
Bev goes over
describing.
that.
He's describing putting it in orthographic view.
What?
Yeah, I mean, here,
Stepping out of yourself and saying, look at this circle that I just created, you know?
Just read off the statement again, please, Tenth.
Assuming the Earth to be approximately spherical, we should expect to meet with a phenomena which are explained by the supposition and are incompatible with the supposition of its being a plane. Such phenomena abound. Among the most striking are the following. Number one, the appearance of the offing at sea as well-defined circular line.
And you're saying
Now,
that you're saying, John, that that's a statement that assumes orthographic view. I don't get that from that. I've got to be honest.
I do. I'll show you a picture.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, I've
think
seen
of the
plenty of...
celestial sphere.
Go on.
Think of the celestial sphere horizon, right? That's what he's talking about. Is you stepped out, you're in orthographic view now, and you have this circular line that surrounds you.
Okay.
He's basically telling you you're seeing the Haversine formula magic
Okay.
around you in orthographic view.
Well, not that far yet, because he's still in the celestial sphere model, right? Like he's
No,
still
Yes, he is. He's still
He's-
double speaking his way around, saying that it's obviously a sphere for all of these incompatible reasons that obviously we have when we don't have a sphere, and then they rattle off all of the 2014 arguments that we first came up against in terms of boats go over the horizon. And you're saying in this example, we observe the world in orthographic view where we see the side of our own head and are presented with a circle.
Yeah, even though that circle is a flat plane with the circle around it, you know, they're trying to work up to the tangent plane. That's
Okay.
like it's a Weasley way of trying to get it in there.
Cool. That was excellent. Other than this last little back and forth, I'll probably trim that out. There's about 10 solid minutes of really good information there.
Give me a few minutes. I'll get the picture of the offing. But John's right here.
Yeah, the horizon only exists to that horizon that you see only exists to you, and my horizon only exists to me. But they're trying to turn it into like an objective thing when they said it's a geometric horizon. You know what I mean?
I think 10's disappeared to get a photo or something. Yes, I do.
But even in that, they still got to have a flat plane there when they describe it. Except when they talk about the horizon, that's your tangent point. When you talk about making angles, it's at your feet. That doesn't seem possible, does it?
Not when you're standing in the centre of a sphere Earth that you're looking out at the concave inside of a map that you're not standing on. No. Oh, Brian joined and then immediately left.
Yeah, I have to go. I got to go do something right quick for work.
Good to have you. That was a good little chat. Expect to see it in a video clip.
That was you guys at your finest. That was beautiful.
See you later, John.
See you guys.
Hey, Brian.
Hey Nathan, I'll be on mute for a while because I'm in a shop, but I'll be back in a while.
Loving your recent videos.
Have you watched them yet?
Yeah, have you not seen me commenting on them? It's because I don't.
No.
I go through it's because I don't leave a primary comment. I just, as I'm watching the video, I'll scrub through the comments and respond to them where appropriate. But that means I'm not actually leaving a primary comment for you to see. It's just in amongst the replies of the other people that spam you with nonsense. Brian gets a lot of hate. So in his videos below him, he's not got the privilege that I have with a larger subscriber base, which is to say that there's plenty of my members and subscribers that will reply to random Joe idiot who's not addressing the point and address their non sequitur with a refutation of their globe claim. Whereas if you've got, I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 subs, as I well know from being in that position myself when I started, or less, you don't have somebody around. So when I see a video by Brian, I'm like, I want to be that guy to just rattle off 5 replies to idiots offering up non sequitur arguments.
Yeah, because look, the arguments I'm getting, I mean, what I showed is not even something you could argue with. It is what it is. I showed that if this was this, then that would happen. Do you know what I mean? And it's like what's even the point in arguing with it? You know, there's nothing to argue with. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a demonstration. If I demonstrate something, or somebody demonstrates something to be true, then it just is. Do you know what I mean?
Just for context.
People might say...
Just before we carry on discussing it,
Sorry?
for context, you're talking about a perspective relationship with sunsets, right?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're talking about the same video, because there's often the case that I'll watch a video and it isn't your most recent, so hopefully we are on the same page. We are good.
Yeah, well...
Oh, we lost Brian. He's in a shop anyway.
You said Brian gets a lot of hate. Well, pit bulls are the most misunderstood of all canine. No, that back and forth, that information was what do you call it?
A little bit later on.
Say again, Brian. You cut out for a while, I think, because you're shopping or whatever.
I had bad signal, and I come back to you when I have better signal. That's what I'll do.
No worries.
I don't think you can hear me, Paul.
Yeah, we can't. It's okay though. We heard that. Thank you.
All right, Nathan, I've hurried up and got a few things because I know you're starting the show. I'll do a better job with the pictures later if need be.
Is this? No, this is good. This
Okay.
is yeah, perfect.
All right, so I'll go ahead and read if you like. The eye situated above the surface of the Earth, as is always practically the case, has a horizon different from the sensible horizon. The latter is the extended plane. The former is the conical surface, everywhere dipping below the sensible horizon, and the wider visible boundary. A very moderate elevation above the surface will give a sensible increase to the observed altitude of the heavenly body, namely the whole of the angular distance between the two horizons, the whole of what may be called the angle of the dip. Exactly what we've been saying. The apparent circular boundary, of the sea, as seen by our eye, thus elevated above its surface, that sea level, is called the visible or sea horizon, or more frequently by sailors, the offing. Now, it's pretty much telling you that when you use your star at the horizon and get the elevation angle with the sextant, that's that circular boundary around you. And if you're standing above sea level and your eyeballs are not at sea level, you're going to have this conical circle around you. And you got to do dip correction, which is get your eyeball on sea level so that it can be parallel with the sensible, fictitious bubble horizon at your eye line called the sensible horizon. Is that pretty clear?
Yep, so far so good.
Okay, next one. Horizon, a plane conceived to touch the surface of the earth at any place and to be extended to the heavens, is called the sensible horizon of that place. A plane parallel to this, but passing through the center of the earth, is called the rational horizon of that place. The horizon, whether sensible or rational, is thus a plane. Well, thank you very much. We don't live on the ball. But the remote bounding circle, which to an eye elevated above the surface of the ocean appears to unite the sea and sky, is that which mariners most commonly regard as the horizon and call it the sea horizon or offing. The plane of this circle obviously dips below the plane of the sensible and rational horizons, and the amount of the depression is that which we call the dip of the horizon, a correction which we have shown to mean get your eyeball at sea level so that it can be parallel with the other parallel lines.
This is what John's referring to when he says it's a differential correction between two flat planes.
Exactly. All right, the last one. This is kind of a full pager, but it shows a little bit of that conical picture on. So it shows the celestial sphere. It shows the Earth as a sphere. It shows the rational horizon, ER, I guess, in this picture. It's hard for me to make out. And then the conical version, you can see those lines coming down with that sensible horizon plane. Or that could be, just a tangent plane at one point touching the surface of the Earth. It doesn't necessarily have to be. They don't have the line for the sensible horizon where the two lines meet above the spherical surface of the Earth. They just meet at the vertical. But there needs to be another line above that line on top for that to be the sensible. All right, let's see, where do we start? Okay, at the top. The eye of the spectator is always practically more or less raised above the Earth, so that his vision takes in more or less of the Earth's surface, and more than the hemisphere of a celestial concave. Thus, let O be the place of the spectator's eye raised above the Earth. At T, it may be considered the vertex of a cone of visual rays, which are tangent to the Earth's surface, marking out the terrestrial boundary of his vision. So, SHS. So you can see they got that cone angle line coming, and they're just begging the question here with orthographic view and back to the original document where they assume we live on a sphere, so everything's going to be done with that assumption. Thus, let O be the place of spectator's eye raised above the Earth at T. It may be considered the vertex of a cone of visual rays which are tangent to the Earth's surface, marking out the terrestrial boundary of this vision, SHS, and the celestial boundary of his vision, SHS, these two circles appearing coincident as the boundary of the Earth and sky. Their position, besides varying with the elevation of the eye and the spectator, being also still further lowered from the effects of refraction. Neglecting this, the surface of the tangent cone to the Earth having its vertex in the eye of the spectator raised above the surface of the Earth defines the visible horizon. For that elevation, both with respect to the Earth and the heavens, the lesser circle in which the cone touches the Earth, SHS, is the terrestrial visible horizon. And the visible area, which it includes, is but a small portion of the Earth's surface. When the spectator is surrounded by the open sea, this is also called the sea horizon or the offing. So I've shown other articles that show the actual picture here close up. So when I find that, I'll bring them on. But again, destruction everywhere you want to look at it for a globe and elevation angles.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Nathan, one of the reasons I wanted to ask that question to a Glober about the Haber sign is they're not going to apply that to the sky, right?
The transformative equations applied to the flat ground, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if do they know that?
It tells them right there, doesn't it? Is that not what it's explaining?
Yeah, but do they know that?
But if it says it, you would assume that they know it. That's why I kind of stammered around saying, how can Ruhif cognitively process this when that's precisely what it's telling him? It's telling him, you take a flat Earth and you transform it into a globe. That's what it's doing.
Yeah, that's what I want to know if they know that. Like, they know they're applying the equation. Do they know what they're applying that equation to? You know what I mean?
What are they applying it to?
Well, they're taking the point at their feet and expanding it out between them and the celestial sphere. That's what they're doing with it. But do they know that?
And that line between you and the celestial sphere would be the base, the edge at 0 degrees horizontal to your feet. Correct?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that would be a flat plane that they're taking this from their feet to the edge of the celestial sphere, which is going to have the sky meeting the ground at 0 degrees. So therefore, they're taking this transformation from a flat plane, or applying the transformative equation to the flat plane that they measure. You just want to know if they know that or not.
Yeah, I just want to know if, like, if they realize it, you know, because that's how they're getting their bendy radius for their circles equal altitude. Did they know that?
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Arwin, Neil, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hey, good morning.
Hello, hello. Good morning.
I can't get off mute. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, good to have you
I
all.
can't get on mute.
Good afternoon.
There's a bit of a plug. Normally we don't do plugs before any housekeeping or anything else, but if you are a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, you are going to want to check out today's pre-show. So it's 17:23, I believe, today. So check out today's Uncut and after show after this live show ends, because for whatever reason, the stars all aligned. We had a really coherent 10 straight minutes of really good, solid, flat Earth information. And it was very specifically in regards to how the flat Earth that we dwell atop and measure is transformed into a globe. So with that in mind, Refracted Curvature, or John, as he's known to us by, has postulated a question that he kind of wants to put out for the audience that are actually globe believers to perhaps comment on below this video or leave a chat comment. There is a live stream chat that's running. Shout out to everyone in the live stream chat. But basically, I want sort of straw poll, maybe we'll call it, in terms of whether or not you appreciate that the application of the Haversine formula is applied to a flat plane. John would like to know if you are aware of that, and will hopefully paraphrase that question again now for you to appreciate that it's him asking. Go ahead, John. Hello, John, Quantum Eraser, and hello, Chocolate. Go ahead, John. Sorry to cut you guys off before you get to say hello.
Morning.
Where the hell is John? Oh, is he gone already? What a build-up for nothing.
You said 1723. Is it 1724 on my notepad, or is it 1723 today's show?
1723 is today's show, I believe.
All right, I got one number off then.
Yeah. In any event, John's obviously disappeared just at the wrong moment, but nevertheless, he did specifically rejoin after saying he'd got a work gig to get on with, to say, I'd like to know if the audience, who are globe believers, are aware that the Haversine formula is a transformative equation applied to a flat plane and the measurements thereof. Are you or are you not aware of that as globe believers? Please leave us a comment to let us know whether or not you are aware of this. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Only considerations.
Evidence as opposed to geometric assumptions and considerations, please.
There are none.
But in the pre-show, that book was implying that it was the most strong evidence that we're on a sphere by assumption.
Yes, indeed. It was incompatible to think that we live on a plane, it said.
Because boats go over a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, we debunked back in 2020.
And then the use of the Haversine formula to give redundancy, if I said it correctly, to an Earth that doesn't have any spherical surfaces.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
We're moving again.
Not as far as I can detect, not as far as I can measure, and the claimed proofsy from a globe Earth believer would be to say that we observe a 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns beneath things that are not attached to the spinning surface. Now, that claim of a Coriolis deflection at 15 degrees an hour would mean that you had the necessary requirement for that to take place, which is Earth turning beneath things that aren't attached, and that would shorten flight times. As a consequence of the fact it doesn't happen, and therefore isn't a demonstrable proof that the Earth is turning, we have anti-flat Earth believers, shall we say, globe heretics, telling us that the reference frames are ruined. Yeah, we don't observe any proof that we spin.
Or you wouldn't be able, you wouldn't expect to see drift.
Yeah, even though the
just
globe claims we'll expect to see 15 degrees an hour of it as a proof we spin, anti-flat Earth globe heretics tell us that we wouldn't expect to see drift.
They're just projecting and they're jealous. Because they want to be the one to be saying that, but they shouldn't. So they just project their predicament onto us.
Nah, they want a taste of being a flat earther. I think Dan wanted to taste the flat earth life. And us telling them that their reference frames are ruined because there isn't any demonstrable drift to show, he wanted a taste of that. So he just took it upon himself to tell me that my reference frame's ruined when I don't have any, and he's destroying the globe claim that there's two of them showing drift at 15 degrees an hour. But there we go. Such is life for an idiot globe believer. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
If that was the case, I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Say if that was the case, it would be a lot simpler to get out to the West Coast because, you know, my destination's actually coming towards me as I fly towards it. But it would be probably pretty hard to get back to the East Coast, like when I want to fly back to New York or something from California, because that means my destination would be flying away from me or going away from me as I'm flying towards it. And in some places faster than the plane that I'm in. Is that supposed to be reality?
You'd have to go by train, right? In one direction, and then the other, you just go in a balloon, and then you wait a few hours, and then you're on the other side.
Yeah, that would be awesome, right?
Absolutely correct.
Trains?
What Chocolate's describing is the absurd requirement for Coriolis effect. Coriolis effect being not actual deflection, things looking like they curve because you turn beneath them. That's Coriolis deflection. The not actual drift observed in the non-inertial reference frame as you rotate beneath in the inertial reference frame as you rotate beneath in the non-inertial turning reference frame. So you on a roundabout and somebody not on the roundabout tossing a ball over the top of it. The ball being tossed over the top of the roundabout is travelling straight, but because you are on a roundabout turning beneath it, it looks like it curves. So to have this effect, that's Coriolis deflection, you need you to be turning underneath things and looking at them seem to take a path that they're not really taking. So for this to be applicable to a globe Earth that's turning, you have to be underneath the plane, looking up at it, going, Bob, check it out. That plane looks like it's taking a curved path, doesn't it? And Bob says, nah, that's us turning underneath the plane. So it only looks like the plane's taking a curved path. It's really going straight as we turn underneath the plane. So us on the ground are turning underneath the plane. And the things that are west of us are coming towards that plane as it moves towards them, shortening the flight times massively. It's amazing. Yeah, but Bob, the flight times don't get reduced as the ground turns underneath the plane and comes towards it. That never happens, mate. Maybe it's just curving, as opposed to us turning beneath it to make it look like it's curving. Maybe it just is actually taking a curved path, and we're not turning beneath it, because if we were, the flight times would be massively reduced. Further to that, the plane that's going east on the equator is never going to reach its destination. It's going to catch it from behind. It's absurd. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
None of that checks out.
Yeah, none of that does check out.
They even say it's absurd when it's explained to them. My son said, "That's ridiculous. How's that going to happen?" I said, "Exactly. It doesn't happen. That's why it's a joke."
Yeah, Dan fell into the trap. Simon and Dan we're referring to fell into the trap that Chocolate often describes in his co-workers, which is to say that you explain the long and short of a globe Earth rhetoric, in this case, Earth turning beneath aeroplanes, for us to see them look like they drift, like a ball looks like it drifts according to Neil deGrasse Tyson when you watch it from the stands and it goes through the goal. Earth turns beneath the ball, and then you get the field goal. Hooray! Well, that's Earth turning beneath the football. Or when they say that, the Earth turns underneath a sniper's shot, so they have to track the target because the Earth turned underneath the bullet. Yeah, that's Earth turning underneath a bullet. So according to the claim, Earth turns underneath planes. And if Earth turns under planes, then we've got massively reduced flight times. That simply doesn't happen. So it doesn't check out in the slightest. But when you explain this to somebody who thinks they're a globe believer and they realise the absurdity of the globe claim of Coriolis effect, they start telling you how absurd it is. And telling you that the reference frames that would be me, describing them as a flat earther describing the nonsense globe claim, they don't recognise that I'm describing a nonsense globe claim and start attacking me and my reference frames that I've described the globe has, because they're too thick to keep up with the conversation. So they feel the need to start attacking the absurdity of the claim, which is a globe claim of 2 reference frames. So someone like Dan or Chocolate's idiot colleagues start attacking him on the absurdity of the globe claim. That's why we tell our audience of globe believers, in quotes, that they're just as dangerous as us. Because they'll go on to their shows, classed as what, authoritative content? Maybe not. And tell their audiences how the globe claim's wrong. Shout out to Unitox Femu, who says, today I reached Area 51, and to add water, doesn't want to curve. Are you in here, Sasha? I don't understand that at all. Does anybody follow that? Today I reached Area 51, ... and to add water, doesn't want to curve. Party, 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 party.
It's two separate sentences.
Pardon?
Right? It's just two sentences. Like the first one is just, hey, Area 51, ooh, secret, spooky things, aliens maybe. And then, oh yeah, water also is not curved. That's basically what he said.
It's today I reached Area 51, full stop. And to add, water doesn't want to curve. Okay, now that makes sense. Thank you for breaking that down for me, Arwen. You've only got so many letters in the super chat, and I really appreciate the support. Thank you very much, Sasha. Or Unitox Femu, as his screen name is.
He has a very interesting way of saying things.
Today, he's 51 years old. There we go. Today I reached age 51. Okay.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I was going to say, where's there water in Area 51?
That makes a lot more sense.
The one you bring with you.
Happy birthday, Sasha.
Right. Shout out to Sasha's birthday. Today he reached age 51. Got it.
You
We still haven't covered it. I've asked it 3 times, right? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
It's over there.
Over where?
There.
Over here.
That
Not there, here.
How can that be? Because I'm looking at it over
it's
here.
everywhere. It's wherever you see it. But it's
So that's two.
not anywhere.
So that's 2 Beatles songs in a row. The sun is here, there, and everywhere. And today it's Sasha's birthday. Okay.
What?
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Yes. P waves and S waves.
Okay, fill us in.
Well, they definitely did try to predict what they would find using sort of echo techniques in the dirt in order, to figure out what they were going to find as they were going to drill down. And they were wrong every step of the way. But they learned a lot about it. And then they never did it again.
Oh, they learned their lesson?
I guess so.
That it? Any more?
Yeah, that's the proof for a molten iron core. They tried, failed, and then never tried again.
I mean, that is actually the genuine rhetoric, in case anybody wasn't following along with Arwen. That is actually the story, believe it or not.
Following in the vein of the Beatles, so they decided to let it be.
Indeed. And then claim it's a globe proof. Neil, you forget water part, says Unitox Femu. Water doesn't want to curve. Well, water at rest doesn't tend to curve, no. Any evidence you can have gas pressure? Let's have a bit more enthusiasm for this housekeeping question. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container for all the fundies who think the sky is a vacuum?
You can't calculate that.
The V you can calculate it, but the calculation leaves us all dead. So the V is the volume. Well, the volume is the amount of space you've got. And space, outer space, is a space for gas. So when you calculate how much space you've got for the gas, that would be the volume, the V in the equation, that you can calculate. We just don't have any gas here, do we, Arwen?
No, but outer space has an infinite volume, so
That's what I'm saying.
Calculate.
Right, okay. So if I want to calculate, for instance, how much gas pressure you've got on this sphere Earth in this diagram with, check out how non-parallel these lights are to claim the eclipse. Isn't that crazy? These lines look parallel to anyone on the panel. Talking about the G+ pictures.
No.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I thought they were all parallel. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, let's just pretend for a second that this is your typical artistic rendition claimed to be a photograph of Earth from space, and it's got clouds on it, right? So let's pretend that we can't see any of the Americas because it's all covered in clouds, right? So that would mean that you've got high pressure gas, and what's the V? What's the volume? Well, it's the area that it's got, right? Well, that would be all of this area, wouldn't it? Space. That would be 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum, an area, a volume for the gas. Now, obviously, typically gas, in reality, takes the shape of its container. And this stupid cartoon with contradictory converging light rays where they claim they're parallel, that doesn't have any containment. So therefore, the volume you're saying you can't calculate for is just the volume they claim is the space, outer space. There's your volume. Vast amount of space for the high pressure gas to want to expand into. And that's what it would do.
Right, but you can't end up with a calculation for how much gas pressure you would have in the end.
Well, you just have a very minuscule amount because it would all disperse into the volume. That's what I'm saying. Where we currently have nice, cushy air to breathe, yum, 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 we wouldn't have that anymore. It would fill the space.
Of course, that's just the natural effect, but yeah, the calculation part is still also interesting, that you really can't calculate it, because if the volume is infinite and it's supposed to be like that, officially they just do that. They still stick numbers to certain volumes, assumed virtual volumes, but it's only for practical purposes, because otherwise they can't calculate anything about it. Because infinity, that doesn't work out in physics, right? Even in virtual physics like the globe. So they can't calculate the gas pressure in the universe if it would spread out. They can't. It would be infinitely small, literally, because the volume is presumed to be infinite.
Actually, they do have a specific set volume currently. I don't know the number off the top of my head. QE has often corrected me on that point. I can't remember the details to correct you, but what I can say is you're wrong.
I know what you mean, but that specific thing is that arbitrary decision. It's just a decision made in order to be able to calculate things about it, because officially it isn't. It's just a number they decided upon. They voted upon it. Like, this is it.
Check out this super chat from us so far. It says, AI can't figure out the Earth is flat. There's a new text-to-image software that turns your words into art, but it makes a flat Earth a globe every time. Thank you very much for telling us. If you could just make a note of it, you don't have to super chat again, but if you tell us in the chat what the name of the software is, that'd be really useful.
Check out Mind Unveiled's video. He did a whole video about that specific software.
Mind Unveiled?
Yeah.
Check him out. Do you know the name of the video by chance?
That won't be flat earthy though, will it? If it's Mind Unveiled. What was he saying about it? I wouldn't have been like a cult or something, won't it?
He didn't mention anything about that specifically, but it's like a AI algorithm that if you just put in words, it's going to try to make a piece of art out of that. And they're getting really good at it. Kind of creepy and very esoteric, very occult sometimes. Goes in all directions. But I think it's really a risky program to use, because it will actually discourage like artistry of individuals that they do on their own time, because it's really easy. Agree with that. Anyway, I'll link you up.
Okay. No matter how good the AI, I know we're off on a tangent, but I want to talk about this tangent just because, by coincidence, I embrace all the things that my kids want to do for pleasure, if it might develop into something educational. In this case, art. So my eldest daughter is incredibly into art. She's very good. Therefore, I promote that or nurture that and take it to various different art classes. Anyway, in the art classes, I get to obviously sit and listen to some of the various different stories of various different artists. Fascinating stuff. But the one prevalent thing that always comes through is that for the artists to have become popular, they have done something outside of the box, unique, something. Somebody who's an art aficionado might say groundbreaking, but I wouldn't use those words. But just very unconventional. Well, I don't think any AI will ever reach the point where they're, other than producing stuff that's just very weird, they won't be able to take that idea to an abstract way of doing things, shall we say. Whereas there's plenty of people who will come up with art often not appreciated in its time that is later appreciated for its abstract nature, but requires a genius level that is beyond artificial intelligence, in my humble opinion.
All right, well, check it out. Watch his video. Has a good, sharp analysis. He's been using these types of programs for a while, so he knows some of the things you might deal with it. So I posted the link in Master B and in the YouTube chat.
Okay, you ever heard of Damien Hirst?
Cutting a car in half.
You got it. So an ex-girlfriend from back in the 2000s that I used to go out with lived in a part of the UK where he had his workshop, shall we call it. It looked like a massive factory. Now, while you couldn't see what was going on inside, what you could see was workers and what they were doing outside the building. And what they were doing was taking massive amounts of formaldehyde from an outside container inside to the building where they were doing whatever work they were doing at the time. Now, that later turned into cows chopped in half and various other formaldehyde pieces that this guy had done, right? Now, again, when we were contextualizing art earlier in terms of the two-dimensional image that's presented from a word translation through AI to a picture, how far outside of the box do you have to go to get from that to a cow chopped in half and put in formaldehyde, right? These two things are a world apart, and I never, ever envisage an AI or artificial intelligence being able to do what someone like Damien Hirst did. I just don't ever see that being the case. The outside of the box nature of that kind of thought, I just don't think is within the realms of any artificial intelligence ever. That requires a human. That requires... Art's the best example of this. I can't think of any better example to say artificial intelligence will never do that.
That is true, but these algorithms have actually been assimilating those types of things. So you'd be surprised what can come out of it. Like, really surprised.
That's
mind-boggling.
So what you're saying is they are assimilating the outside of the box thinking of other artists. Yeah, and you might find aspects of it incorporated into AI art, but what you won't get is that truly unique outside of the box thing that a new artist will offer. You know, Jackson Pollock is.
Well, you will get it when it becomes updated, when it becomes integrated, right? But the moment itself will only come out of a person. I agree.
Absolutely. So I'll just give one more example. Jackson Pollock. Do you know who he is? It's okay if you don't.
No, but I thought artists are famous after they die.
Okay, just look up Jackson Pollock for the audience's benefit, right? You won't be confronted with anything conventional if you've never heard of him. If you know who Jackson Pollock is, you'll know exactly what you're going to be seeing when you go and look at his art. But, and then go and look up I think it's called the Pollockinator, I think is the contraption he came up with to essentially fly over his art to do what he was doing. I've got to give the game away now, which is spattering. But in order to not be a part of it in his feet or his body, basically, a bit like NASA, rigged himself up on high wire so he could float across the canvas and spatter paint on it in the most random possible way, right? But the way he flicked it and the way he did it, all of that the mechanics of that, the physics of that, I don't mean physics, the physicality, what's the word I'm looking for, Adam? The biology of it. Again.
The physicality of it all.
The physiological nature of how it's been performed, that physiological aspect, again, you cannot achieve that with AI.
It's not that. You could get it all set up for the AI to do it, but what you won't get with the AI is, after you've been swinging a while, that cheeky, nonchalant flick for no apparent reason out of nowhere, just because you felt like it. You know, that's what computers will never. There's no passion. I was doing some work.
No will.
Well, there's no... While he's doing it, right, imagine this guy, he's floating over his canvas, he's flicking his paint, and then the housekeeper comes in and goes, yeah, that postman has just been bitten by the dog again. And he goes, ah! Flicks the paint really violently. How's an AI going to achieve that? That won't happen.
Unless it's been programmed to be slightly erratic like that. unless it's supposed to be emulating like weird behaviors. But that too
But again, that's
simulated.
yeah, but that's programmed to be like that, not because something
Exactly.
external occurs, you become like that. You can't guarantee the postman is going to bite the dog for that message to come on at the point in the art for it to then affect the art in some way. Honey, you can't.
Did I have the postman biting the dog in my scenario? I don't believe I did.
What was it?
The dog
Well, that's why
bit
you're
the
right, it turned
postman,
out as well.
not the other. I don't tend to hear headline news about it. Would be if a postman went into someone's garden and bit
I
their
just
dog.
realised that went over my head twice, Nathan. Yes, yeah. Well, that would be more newsworthy, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Definitely, that would be headline news if postman bites dog. God, we are so far off the rails today. Where the hell are we? What are we doing? What day is it? Who am I?
It's bank holiday yesterday, isn't it? That's the trouble.
Also, my wedding anniversary. Anyway,
Well, congratulations.
thank you very much. 8
How
years.
many years? 8.
Yeah. Totally non-important anniversary in that regard. I did something quite sneaky, so I said to my wife, let's just not bother with cards.
Congrats, man.
I said, we won't bother. Let's just not bother. Knowing full well there's been at least one anniversary that I've forgotten about, right? So bearing in mind that I've made it explicitly clear we just won't bother, we're a bit broke, let's not buy cards. I went out and bought a card, slipped it under a pillow. So now there's always going to be that one time that she didn't get me one, just in case it happens again. Oh, do you remember that time that you didn't get me a card? You told me not to get one. That was not my recollection. I don't recall it being that way. Anyway.
Nice safety net.
That's it. That's my safety assurance that I've got now from 2022. Anyway, let's move on. We are miles off the rails now. Let's see if I can get this train wreck back on the track with a housekeeping question. Given that I've forgotten which ones we've covered, I don't really know where to go now. Any evidence of the R value? There we go. Nicely saved.
Black Swan.
Are you needing a radius of Earth?
Yeah.
That'll be a problem.
You mean if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, which we've been told by the people that believe that is a straw man? You mean that radius? That one?
The one you require some geometric considerations for, yes.
Is it the evidence in the Haverstein formula?
Well, that's
No.
your geometric considerations, right?
Oh, no. What Neil just asked was, isn't the evidence for R in the Haverstein formula? What say you, John?
No, that's how they transform a flat plane into a curved surface, but by projecting that out. But no, it's not proof for the radius of Earth. No.
As Chocolate was saying, if the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, as the fundamentalist religious zealots who believe they're on a sphere tell us is the case, then every distance to that horizon, that would be the geometric horizon, could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. Now, when they tell us, as Chocolate pointed out, that that's a straw man, that's not the case. So when the application of their sphere Earth at radius 3959 is applied to navigation in any capacity, even after the measurement of the flat Earth that you'll need to do it is applied, your sphere Earth geometric horizon will give you your mapping distances when applied in the geometric raw nature that gives you a geometric horizon. Well, the image on screen, as Chocolate whispered it at the beginning of this little section, Black Swan, that's what this is. The distance to the geometric horizon is, in this image, beyond the limitations of a geometric sphere edge hill getting in the way with boats falling over it. It's not obscuring anything because it's behind the objects it should be in the way of. Now, physical hills, that would be Earth curve, claim to get in the way of things, don't move beyond the things they're supposed to obscure. Hills don't do that. But that's what we're seeing, and that's why we say the Earth is not a sphere with a radius of 3959 because the horizon is not Earth curve. Any more to add on this?
Globe guys that don't really get that when you say refraction, that's not really a rebuttal. That's actually a concession. Because what you're talking about is optical as opposed to the physicality that you just gave up by saying refraction. After a couple of years, you might want to catch up to that. Thanks.
You also might want to realize that by saying refraction, you're cutting off all required uses of the geometric horizon, Earth curve. Because when you do your mapping, as Ruhif's currently finding out, you're going to be needing a geometric horizon to apply the distances. Because those maps are based on the raw derivation of the flat Earth measurements to the geometric ones that are assuming a radius value. So you've got to have them work with the maps that they've created with them. When you take a flat plane and the celestial sphere around it, apply the Haversine formula to give you a globe to project up as though it was the tool you measured the flat plane you're actually standing on, and then reify that position into somewhere you're standing. Well, number one, that's all going to require a flat Earth, but it all requires the maps match up with the distances in the geometric considerations of a sphere Earth that give you a geometric Earth curve horizon. So you've got to have it, and you haven't. What's that? Refraction? Well, then you haven't got a geometric horizon. How are you going to apply any of this to anything ever if you're going to claim you're on a sphere? And the answer is, well, you'll try to apply a geometric horizon after 2020, like Ruhif's doing at the moment, and be laughed at. That's that geometric horizon working out for you there, buddy. Infinite over our refraction. Yeah, that doesn't leave you with a geometric horizon to apply, though, in your maths anymore, does it? You've debunked your own claim, you bunch of idiots.
Yeah, it's a little weird when you ask for the radius of the Earth and then they'll tell you, oh, how do we prove the radius of the Earth refraction? Oh, so you're going to take the radius of the Earth, put it in an equation and change it, and that proves the radius of the Earth that you just had, that you had to change? That's cute.
Now Chocolate's pointing out that the refraction they're applying when they refraction at us as a demolishment of their claim in the first instance that we've got a geometric horizon called Earth curve, they're actually applying a formula that's based on the radius and its geometric horizon. 7/6 of the radius in standard form is terrestrial refraction, otherwise known as atmospheric refraction. And atmospheric, sphere-shaped air, refraction has an R value, and you'll require a geometric horizon to have an R value to say that that R value-based geometric horizon has moved with an R-based refraction value. It's paradoxical, fondly named the Arwinian paradox.
Yep.
I have contention with that thing, but that's okay.
With it being a paradox.
Boo.
No.
Is that the only paradox?
Yeah, go on.
Is that the only paradox? You started off with a paradox.
What, with sphere-shaped air?
Yes.
Air isn't sphere-shaped yet. It's an oxymoron.
Yeah, it dies right there. Also, have them define refraction.
7/6.
Have a little fun.
7/6 of Earth's radius.
No, define refraction. What is refraction? Not you.
Light bending through sphere-shaped air, I assume.
Yeah, right.
There's another oxymoron in there, too, when they use the tangent plane to assert a tangent to the horizon.
Yeah, if you're standing on a tangent, i.e. on the plane, at the point of tangency, you can't then have a further tangent point beyond that flat plane. So that's paradoxical also. Yeah, good catch. Any more? It's What's Your Paradox here on Flat Earth Debate. Any scientific evidence of gravity? Got this train right back on the tracks. Check
I
it
was
out.
just going to say, isn't that also basically another paradox? Everybody thinks it's a force, but it isn't actually a force.
But
they
you can
still
think of it
it's
as a force.
Yeah. I call that an aberration, by the way. Because nothing is actually being proved. It's just so suggestive that people don't let go. Just
Well,
like
again,
ether.
that was a similar to what we discussed in the pre-show, again, in regards to specifically Ruhif and how he can cognitively process what was requested of the live audience right at the beginning of this show. You know, if you realise and appreciate that you're applying the Haversine formula to a flat plane, how can you sleep at night being a globe believer when you appreciate that? Well, equally, when you're told by a globe priest that you can think of gravity as a force, but it isn't, how do you continue your fundy belief when that's been told to you? I don't get it.
Okay, can we do the full quote? Okay, can we do the full quote? George Musser. We must consider Newtonian gravity as a force. Doesn't mean it really is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level. End quote.
Heliocentric priest George Musser when talking about gravity. But is there any, just to keep us back on this train track, any scientific evidence of gravity?
There's no phenomenon occurring within nature. There's only conceptual medium activity and the inference from that. That's it.
I was telling one of my coworkers last week something. We were talking about gravity, and I told him, I was like, well, gravity hasn't been considered a force since 1915, right? And he's like, well, that's weird. I'm like, yeah, now it's like the bending of a conceptual medium. And I was like, well, if it was a force, wouldn't it just still be a force? Like, would it have changed like that? He's like, no, it just would be what it is. I was like, yeah, thanks. Appreciate that, your honesty.
Chocolate, the force with this one is weak, Luke.
What about any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
That's funny because I was looking at the stars last night with my boys in the hot tub in Tennessee, and we were talking about the stars, and my son was claiming that it's gravity that keeps us here on the Earth. This is my little son. And then we got into that numpty retard saying that magnetism is causing the stars to rotate. What a laugher.
I don't know what to say to that.
Is that a push or a pull?
I got very angry with that guy yesterday.
Who has the answers to how the stars rotate?
What?
Google.
Nathan, once you're done.
Like, what's the matter, man? You
I
never
just want
heard
to
of
address that,
Google?
right? So, a speculation that a magnetic field that Earth has, we all know that a compass does work, right? But to extrapolate that into the cause of the star rotation is a supposition yet to be validated. Now, that supposition that magnetism causes star rotation in some capacity, what's another name for a supposition yet to be validated? Or how is that a way to describe something else? Anybody?
Hypothesis.
Hypothesis.
Spot on. So a hypothesis is your supposition that magnetism causes star rotation. And star rotation is most certainly a natural phenomena we observe. So this is most certainly open to scientific inquiry. And there is available to all who want to inquire about any natural phenomena or things that occur in nature, that method. Ergo, you could apply that method to your supposition yet to be validated. Now, when a supposition yet to be validated is presented here on Flat Earth Debate, and has been quite recently, frequently, in the form of the supposition that magnetism, which is in fact somehow based on the presupposition that it's encompassing ether, causes star rotation. All we would like to see, despite my disdain and anger towards the idiots posing this at the moment, is that that supposition is validated. And if it isn't validated, it's pie in the sky speculation from a bunch of deceived idiots. And nothing more. Now, for all of you who feel that it's unreasonable to apply an empirical method that is quite literally custom designed to validate or invalidate a supposition of a cause when applied to a naturally occurring phenomena, then you are quite literally on your own in a wilderness of deceit where there is empiricism available to you. Now, where that empiricism is available to you, not me, because I'm not claiming this, then you better damn well apply that empirical method rather than dress your supposition up like it's true or needs any credence given to it beyond a, that's an interesting supposition yet to be validated, because that's all it is. I just don't. The reason I've given that big old disclaimer is because I don't want people to say, well, how do you know that it doesn't cause the stars to rotate? Well, I do not. But I'm not, A, postulating this crap as my speculation of a cause and effect relationship, nor do I have any alternative to offer, or have I ever made any claims in regards to a cause and effect relationship in regards to star rotation. I don't believe anybody on the panel has either, to my knowledge, beyond Darwin, who likes to dabble in a bit of this and that. But with that exception notwithstanding, for the most part, we don't speculate about it to need any juxtaposition to have with their, that's ether believers, supposition yet to be validated. So it might be magnetism that causes star rotation, but I want to see somebody varying star rotation. Now, in yesterday's annoyance to whoever was postulating this crap about ether, I said, can you make the stars stop? Now, listening back to it after the fact, I was like, what I mean by that is, can you vary this phenomena? Now, that would be to say, cause the effect. But if the effect is ongoing, i.e. whenever it's night the stars rotate, you've got to vary that which is ongoing, aka make it stop. And I just wanted to clarify that magnetism hasn't been varied in such a manner to validate it as a cause of that effect. So, in this empirical forum that we find ourselves in this regard, that is the standard, unfortunately. Now, there's going to be a lot of ether believers out there that don't like that. And that's tough. I'm done.
Now, they first have to define what ether is. Now, that's not a scientific question, right?
Damn.
It's a what is question. So you have to define it. It must exist first before you get to whether it causes anything or not. Now, once you get to the cause part of it, now that's available for scientific inquiry. Not what is ether. That is a what is question that's non sequitur scientific method.
And we still can't get an answer for it.
But in terms
I
of
can
their,
answer that.
John just stole my
I just want to clarify one thing. In terms of their assertions, they often come with assertions of phenomena and cause and effect relationships attached to them, regardless of their constant insertion of an assumption that ether is directly connected to whatever they're claiming, in this case, magnetism. It isn't. That what is question is, as QE's just pointed out, non sequitur and not open to scientific inquiry. But when they utilise a different effect, i.e. cause magnetism, affect star rotation, that doesn't include ether at all. It's just the kind of garbage we have thrown at us when trying to insert an ether that doesn't exist into some sort of cause and effect relationship they haven't even validated. Anyway, you're right in that regard, QE. I just wanted to clarify that they do conjure up phenomena that they haven't scienced. And then
Nathan.
I wanted to just do that. I could keep it very short. I'm not actually defending Ether, but they like to scattergun us with magnetic fields, light medium, dielectric field, counter space, unmanifested energy. Did I miss anything?
No, but maybe you can answer the Retro Bill's question from the super chat, Arwin. Nathan, it's directed specifically at me, so it'd be rude to put it over on Arwin. What is the real world practical value in claiming the existence of an unprovable ether? Am I missing something? Anybody want to field that? I will answer you, Retro Bill, and thank you for the super chat. Go ahead, Arwin.
It's this unanswerable, joyous dream that reveals all these mysteries to you every time. You don't get to solve them, but you get confronted with them. So it's a very exciting, pleasant dream for as long as you hold on to it, because you're never going to be able to prove any about it.
Anybody else want to
stick to it.
look into their crystal ball? Go ahead.
Sounds like the globe again.
Nathan,
go ahead.
If I may ask, I got 5 slides to finish off the pre-show conversation before your live show ends.
Okay, but in the meantime, did you have any comment on this specifically in regards to what's the practical application for claiming an ether in the first instance? If not, I'm going to speak to it in regards to John's comment, because he said it's very much like the globe. Well, when they say, well, why would we be lied to? What's in it for them? Well, power and control. And in regards to the dissemination of bullshit information about ether, it has garnered an audience of believers and followers. So that can only speak to the motivation of the people disseminating this garbage. They want followers and believers behind them, and they've acquired them with this garbage.
Right.
So
and
power, control, same as the globe, same as any lie.
You're right, because there's also this other issue that ether has been stumbled upon and speculated about, even among physicists, like way back. So it was kind of a thing that a lot of intellectual people seem to be interested in, not necessarily like, oh, it's real, but they were interested in it. And this gives like this mysterious weight to people that really don't understand it. And yeah, they think like, oh, but they couldn't come out for it or something. But no, most of them probably knew this is just an aberration. This is just a fascinating thing to think about, but they can't prove it scientifically, right? And now all these newbies through the internet are just stumbling upon it, and they think like, oh, it was hidden from us. They suppressed the ether, and now we can finally make ether real again. But they just don't understand. They just don't understand what was really happening.
Shout out to Hillside. He says, what's up, guys? Good morning. Thank you to all of you giving me so much love in the super chats. Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate the support.
Well, they can repurpose all those MAGA hats now and make ether great again.
Arwin's 100% right. Arwin, you're correct.
Nothing's really changed as much as we might hype up the fact that we're pummeling ether believers at the moment, and it'll probably cost me subscribers, because there's plenty of flat earthers out there who sit on the ether believing fence and just hope it doesn't come up on this show for them to have to cringe about. Well, unfortunately, the standards don't change here, so we can't make exceptions just because there's a fair chunk of flat earthers that believe in ether. Yeah. There's not a lot I can do about the standards that we hold here. We'd be called hypocrites by every single person out there, with the exception of ether believers, if we made an exception for it. So we can't.
We're not populists. We go for the correctness. We go for the truth, even if that makes us unpopular.
Speaking of which, can we go to the 5 slides before the show ends?
Yes. Are we starting with the one that says curved horizon? No.
Dip of the horizon.
I was just
the last set.
I was just trying to do a quick plug before you went for QE's open panel.
Go ahead.
That's it. When's your open panel? QE.
Hello.
Hello. I've got your slide up.
Hello. How are you? When's the open panel? It's on today's show,
which is at 7 p.m. UK time. It's like pulling teeth, ladies and gentlemen. Like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it is. 1 p.m. Eastern. No, it's not 1 p.m. Eastern. 1 p.m. Central.
Obviously, given how enthusiastic Q is to have an open panel with all of you beautiful people from the audience coming on it, you should be here or be Sphere for Quantum Eraser YouTube channel open panel, 1 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. UK. Go ahead, 10th. After that,
Yeah,
incredibly
get to 10th
enthusiastic.
before
You just woke up, dude.
All right.
Get to 10th before he strangles you.
All right, continuing on the conversation we had earlier, the dip of the horizon, 235, as seen. Let O be a point at a distance h above the Earth's surface. Draw tangents such as OT and OT to the surface of the Earth. The ends of all these tangents all clearly lie on the circle. This circle is called the offing, or visible horizon. The angle that each of these tangents OT makes with the horizontal plane POQ is called the dip of the horizon. Let R be the radius of the Earth, and let B be the other end of the diameter through A. We then have, by, I believe that's Euclid 36, I'm not sure, OT to second, This gives accurate value for OT. But drop down before the slide ends, it says 4,000 mile. That's for the radius, 3959. They rounded it off. Go to the next slide, please. So in the naval ordnance and gunnery, use of cadet midshipmen, if you go to the following slide following the title, it says 1633, Buckner's method to determine the distance of an object at sea by observing its angular distance from within the offing. Oh, this is interesting. This is done as follows. In the figure 348, let OB represent the sea level. Can you go back to the previous two slides where it showed the radius of the Earth assumed?
Yep.
Okay. I see curvature. I see a circle. I see orthographic view. All right. Now let's go to the slide I was just on.
Okay.
This is done as follows. In figure 348, let OB represent sea level. Well, you see O at the bottom and B at the bottom. That's a straight line. Position of the observer at the height of AB. Well, that's easy. That's the vertical AB above it. And AC, a horizontal line parallel to it. AC. Wow, that's like the sensible horizon. And I wonder what AO is. Well, we'll find out. The offing or edge of the visible horizon. Okay, So when you look at AO, that's your dip, the height above the flat plane. Whereas in the previous picture, it shows it on a circle. Here, they're telling you it's parallel, like John has succinctly put to it. The dip correction is the depression angle between two straight lines. Now, you think we're the first to answer this. Go to the next slide. Here's a book called Zetetic Cosmogony, 1899. Go to the last slide. Disappearances of Ships at Sea. J.W. Draper, in his Conflict Between Religion and Science, page 160, says, the circular visible horizon and its dip at sea, the gradual appearance and disappearance of ships in the offing, cannot fail to incline intelligent sailors to a belief in the globular form of the Earth. The circular visible horizon amounts to nothing because we take our stand in a large square of, say, 20 miles. The visible horizon will be circular, any point in the distance being the edge of the circle of vision. If we measure off a square of 100 miles or so, the vision will be bounded by a circle, the limit of sight. So the circular visible horizon may at once be dismissed, but its dip at sea is just what has never been seen. It is the very thing that requires to be seen to establish the globular theory. It is the very thing that never has been seen. Wherever we look at sea, the water extends in one straight line and as far as the eye can reach. A flat surface is always seen, and the ships are seen at distance altogether out of proportion to the allowance to be made for convexity if the surface were a convex one. Then he goes on to talk about, obviously, perspective and so forth. But do you see, this is the original FED telling him you're silly. And then they show in their own books that it's a straight line. And then they show orthographically it's a sphere. What say you?
It's just a necessity to have a flat plane and then double speak around how it's not done and show diagrams of how it's not done to then go on show how it is done with a flat plane and how it works with a flat plane. And that John's differential correction between two flat planes is what you're doing. There's no curved surfaces involved. It wouldn't work if there was. Doesn't stop him showing it like there is.
I don't like what he says that if you can see dip, that dip has not been seen and is what you would see if it were a globe. That's an incorrect statement. It's just.
I think he's asking for proof of R, curvature.
Well, it's just the way he phrased it. You will see dip correction because the parallel line you draw out from your eye as you change in height will always have a differential from the plane.
He's basically saying, John, I think he's basically saying if you go back to the first image of the circle and the offing there, he's saying that can never be seen. The orthographic view of it, that's never seen.
Okay, if that's what he meant, then I agree with that. You can't ever see an orthographic view, but I don't know, the way it was phrased, it could get confusing.
I think that's the intention. Perfect. With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley channel member to see the mad pre-show that we had today. And I will see you all in the next video.
Times the observer's height and feet. Even if that did happen, which it doesn't, it's still affirming the consequent because you're just measuring a differential between two flat planes.
Indeed.
Well, that's where you got the equation in the first place, right? That's where you got that. The 1.22 times the square foot of the observer's height in feet. How would you even know that if you had measured it on a flat plane using elevation angles anyway to get your R value, right? So then now compare that R value that you think you got to this new R value that you're going to change when you ask, what's wrong with the R value? And they tell you, oh yeah, of course that works. We're going to take that and put it into an equation and change it. And then that proves the R that we just changed. It's great.
There's
insanity.
There's a few more nuggets here. Nathan, can you go to the third slide that shows the parallel lines?
Okay.
Don't say parallel.
All right. So, yeah, don't say 90. Buckner's method to determine the distance of an object at sea by observing its angular distance from within the offing. Now, let's bring some backstory here. We're talking about using a sextant to get an angular measurement up from the horizon. Now, think of that. And then look at this picture, and I'm going to read that top again. Buckner's method to determine the distance of an object at sea by observing its angular distance from within the offing. It's telling you I've got to use the sea natural horizon as where I bring the horizon mirror to. How many of these ballers came and said that you don't need to do that? You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. And they come up with the sensible horizon, which is a theoretical line, which is represented as AC in this picture. But OB is the sea level. As you can see, this is done as follows. In figure 348, let OB represent sea level. Where's the curve? Why
The
do they have
curve
a straight
what?
line here? Excuse me, who's this rude person?
I asked the curve of what? You asked where's the curve?
Are you looking at a slide?
No, I'm talking to you.
Well, obviously you don't know what you're doing because I'm actually talking, describing something, and you're being rude by interrupting. Can you wait until I'm done?
I mean, you asked the question, where's the curve? So I could wait, sure.
Well, you're not even looking at a slide, so what do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't need to. You asked, where's the curve? And I responded with the question, what are you talking about?
At the slide I'm looking at, can you show me the curve on the slide I'm looking at?
The curve of what? That was the question.
Obviously, you're not looking at the slide I'm looking at, so maybe
What's in
you
the
should.
slide? You can describe the slide, correct?
Excuse me?
You can describe the slide, correct?
I was until you interrupted me.
Like he was literally
Okay,
in the middle of
then
that.
describe it.
He was literally in the middle of that as you asked your question.
As the host always says, I don't need your permission to describe it. You just need to be nice and civil. You're a bit triggered in your voice. All right. From the Naval Ordnance and Gunnery, for the midshipmen, United States Naval Academy. They show two straight lines. Where's the curve? It's telling you the offing, which is the visible sea
Straight lines
horizon.
don't curve.
I'm still talking. I mean, is this guy going to be this way? Can we just get rid of him? He's not worth it.
Bro, you all right? Man?
If you're referring to straight lines, why would you ask if straight lines curve? That doesn't make any sense.
Bro, you're the one not making sense right now. Could you just relax and let 10th man finish?
It's detailing a measurement to the horizon.
So are you describing straight lines or something else that actually curves?
Straight lines
Since you
to
asked
the
the question,
horizon.
where's the curve?
Straight lines to the horizon when measuring it.
Straight lines don't curve.
And then calculating a height of eye or dip correction. And the dip's being done between two parallel straight lines. So when he says, where's the curve? He's pointing out that when you do this dip correction, it's a correction between two parallel planes. There is no curve. So there's no
Well, I
Earth
can
curve.
demonstrate a curving horizon right now.
Okay.
What's an offing? What's an offing?
So you can demonstrate a curving horizon. Why?
Of course I can. Anybody
That's fascinating.
can. It's second grade science.
That's fascinating. And what's that useful for? Why would you be showing it? What's it proving? What do you think the horizon is?
An apparent place where the Earth seems to meet the sky to an observer.
Fascinating. So you showing that apparent position where the sky meets the ground or sea curving, what does that mean? Doesn't really mean anything, does it?
It can curve.
So what?
That's what it means.
So who cares? So it doesn't prove anything.
Now that we settled that, we can move on.
Okay. So it doesn't prove anything then?
Exactly.
His claim that it curves, or he can see it curving, the horizon, that is, doesn't prove anything.
It's not my claim. I can demonstrate it.
Meanwhile, when establishing a horizontal plane to measure elevation angles to perform celestial navigation
The
to
Earth's
find
not
your
a
way around
plane.
Earth, well, this guy Fundy mutes the crap out of me. That requires a differential correction between two flat planes. So there's no Earth curve involved when correcting from two flat planes to do celestial navigation, for example. That requires Earth to be flat.
Earth's not flat.
It is if you're doing celestial navigation on it. There's no Earth curve. Our first question to you is, in this method that's being displayed on screen to an audience, where's the Earth curve? There isn't any. You're measuring a differential between two flat surfaces.
Since this gentleman found it interesting to interrupt because he's more intellectually honest than us, please describe what an offing or visible horizon is.
This guy doesn't know. He just wants to chant that he thinks he's on a globe at us, and that the horizon curves. Wowee, that's not Earth curve. And if you're performing navigation like we're showing on screen now, it uses flat planes.
Does a cylinder curve?
Who cares? The ground is navigated flat. Earth's flat. It's navigated that way. I mean, you can ask me about how a cylinder behaves as a non sequitur response to the fact that when measuring the ground to navigate it, you will be measuring it flat. You could give us a non sequitur response about a cylinder.
I can demonstrate Earth being a cylinder and curving.
A cylinder is not a sphere.
Wow.
I just want to point that out.
Okay, so we've got a... What's
I
this?
can demonstrate Earth being any shape you can imagine.
Oh, yeah. That's fascinating.
No, you can't. You can't do that.
Yes, I can, because it takes the shape of its container. If I fill a bucket with Earth, it will take a cylinder shape.
It. You can't tell him he can't.
Hold on, guys in G+, guys, what he said is, I can fill a bucket with Earth, and the Earth will take the shape of its container? So,
correct.
Right. Okay. When we say nature of Earth, we don't mean the nature of soil. Okay?
Earth is soil.
Really? So the sea that you navigate on with maps and differential corrections between two flat planes that are required to measure elevation angles, that flat Earth that you navigate when at sea, that's soil, is it?
No, the sea is water.
No, it's not, you stupid idiot. So, barking, raving, lunatic globe believer, can you step out of this conversation? Because you're becoming quite irritating with your stupid, idiotic nonsense about putting Earth into a bucket and talking about curvature you don't have when we're talking about the navigation of the plane we dwell atop and how that plane we dwell atop is in fact measured flat.
The Earth is not water, so it doesn't matter.
So we navigate on the water in ships and we measure angles from a flat plane in order to navigate the sea. Now, you're saying if I put soil in a bucket, well, that's analogous to Earth because Earth is soil. No, it isn't. We can navigate vast swathes of Earth that isn't soil. You are
Water's not
an idiot. A waste of time moronic globe believer in over his head. You're in over your head. You're too thick to be here.
Didn't he say that straight lines are curved and that was second grade science? Why don't you start there?
Straight lines don't curve.
Didn't you just say that earlier? I thought you said that. I wrote something down.
No, I didn't, QE.
Oh, you didn't, QE. Okay, well, it's recorded. We'll see.
That's correct.
So what's second grade science?
What I presented.
What you presented, right? Define a hypothesis, scientific. What is a scientific hypothesis?
Doesn't matter.
You're compromised.
You're an idiot.
That's a great answer, bro.
You're an idiot.
I mean, I'm
Why are you
impressed.
Here? Idiot. I'm going to start calling you an idiot. You said it was second grade science, and then you were asked to qualify your claim of science from the second grade. And when asked to define it, you say it doesn't matter? You're a globe-believing idiot. What we get here sometimes, ladies and gentlemen, idiots with a globe belief, with really no quality argumentation to offer. Just idiocy.
I'm more interested.
Hold on, Nathan. He's in pain. He's in pain,
Sorry,
Brian.
sorry, Neil. I'm speaking there.
My bad.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My bad,
Go ahead,
Neil.
Brian.
Sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead, Brian.
Well, I'm more interested in his claim that he can demonstrate the Earth to be any shape that he wants. That means there's no particular shape that he could believe the Earth is, because any demonstration that he can show it to be is that shape. If you know what I mean. He's not a ball, or he's not a believer in a horizontal plane. It's just the Earth can be anything, from what he said.
Yeah, but Brian, somebody came in.
Demonstrate it that way.
He's not the first one to come in and say that, though. There was a guy came in and showed us Earth. There's triangles and everything.
No,
That's a big deal.
There's a big difference between saying I can show Earth to be any shape I like and coming with models derived from flat Earth elevation angles that are converted or, let's say, transformed into any shape you like and then showing them after he's done the hard work to produce them. That's a wild world apart from what we've just had verbally conveyed to us here, Neil.
I just want to point out that for him to be making a claim, I don't know if he's even a glober, but from what I heard, he seems to be. For him to be making a claim that basically that you can make the Earth be anything you like. But if he's talking about in the sense of a globe and globe Earth, that means the horizon we're using to get all the angles off of is refracted. That means within his model, it's refracted. That means none of these things could ever match reality because the average every day, 7/6 that they add, that is a constant on their model, means that they're going to have 80.5 statute miles per degree. Whereas in reality, we get 69 statute miles per degree.
Why is this zombie character getting any light of day? He interrupted my presentation and took the last 15 minutes.
Because the door's open to all. The bar is open to the public. Anybody can stroll in.
Oh, okay. Let's
He
stroll
needed to
in.
disturb you to tell you that straight lines don't curve.
He wasn't even looking at the presentation. Well, that's my whole point. Stroll in, but wait your turn. And all of a sudden,
you just wanted to tell us that we were wrong.
I know that. I was here. The point is, moderating the show should say, wait your turn until he's done.
I was more intrigued with Extremis trying to stop him, because Extremis clearly detected that this didn't look good for Globers and told him to basically move on.
That was kind of funny, though.
White knighting?
White knighting for somebody who's making you look bad?
No,
I know.
He was actually trying to shut it down. Like, hey.
No, I know.
Hey,
No,
look. I'd rather have no representation for the globe here than you doing a really bad job for us. Just shut up.
Right. So what would you call this? Since white knighting is to come and help, and here he wants to get them up. What would that be called?
This is a race thing.
No.
It's more like gray knighting.
No, I'm not looking for a pun here. If you want one of supposedly your own side to stop talking, whereas the contrast is you come in to help a guy, it's called white knighting. What would you call the other?
Mexican knighting?
Oh my God.
No, gray knighting. It's just keeping order, right? Gray.
No, I don't think Extremis was trying to allow me to talk and keep order.
A tactical foul, maybe. I don't know. Wasn't really a foul either. It's hard to put your finger on what that was, but it was amusing.
Anyway, can we get back to the last two slides I just put so I can finish the point?
Yes, sure.
Well, only before you go on, just so you know that straight lines don't curve, like our friend told us. So, just so now that you know that, please continue.
Okay, great. So in this picture of the dip of the horizon, they're showing a circle, but they're saying it's a sphere. And then they're showing the offing as OT, as the visible horizon. Clearly, China show you curvature. In fact, if you go to the bottom of the written part, it says 4,000 miles R. So basically 4,000 mile radius. So this is clearly a sphere in their orthographic view. This is clearly showing that the eye line, when it's not at the water level, looking down at the visible horizon, is the offing. And it looks curved. It's supposed to look curved. We live on a ball. This is the whole idea here. Now, if you go to the next slide, Buckner's method to determine the distance of an object at sea by observing its angular distance from within the offing. So now we have the same offing, except we don't see that circle. We don't see orthographic view of a ball. We just see parallel lines and then a vertical and then some angles, it looks like. So this is done as follows. In figure 348, let OB represent sea level. So OB here is not curved. OB is sea level while they're at rest. A, the position of the observer at the height. Okay, A, well, just like on the other one, that's above the sea level, the person's eyeballs. AB above it. So obviously, sea level to A is AB. AC a horizontal line parallel to it. So this is your bubble sextant. This is your theoretical horizon. This is your sensible horizon. A straight line. Okay, a horizontal, a reference plane. K, the object whose distance is required. Okay. Now, what do we have here? We have exactly how it's done because it is the offing. Where's the ball? Where's the circular?
Can't be done. Need straight lines.
So the dip of the depression angle, the dip of the sea horizon is really nothing more than getting your eyeballs to sea level, as we've countless times cited, and nothing more.
Perfect. Thank you, 10th. I'm still appreciative of the interruption, just because it did look very bad for them.
Well, this is why I don't go on any of these people's shows, because they're this way and it's not worth it.
Fair enough. My bad. My apologies for allowing it to be interrupting your presentation.
Well, I don't mind if he's allowed to talk afterwards, but when he says he's not looking at anything but commenting on what I'm saying, it's like, hey, dude, then turn on your monitor, look at what we're talking about instead of commenting on something sight unseen.
No, he wasn't even that clever. He was trying to be a smartass. He heard you say straight lines, and then you said, where's the curve? So he wanted to come and tell you that straight lines don't curve, buddy. What is it that you don't understand, right? That's the attitude that he had. It's like, bro, just relax.
I've never thought straight lines curved.
However, it is that open bar. So while you might have your PowerPoint presentation, you've got your projector out, you've pulled the screen down, you've dimmed the lights in the bar, you've got everyone gathered around the table, and you've given your presentation. And then at that moment, the door bursts open, and somebody comes in and starts talking shite. That's what's happened, and that occasionally is the way of things. It should be the normal way of things, actually. We're inviting them to challenge us, but I have to assess if the guy's an idiot or not, and very quickly we established that he was. One day it'll be someone valid in their interruption, 10th. That's all I can promise.
Well, no, I'm well aware of what he did. I'm well aware of what you wanted the audience to see. I get it. I just have a different standard. That's all.
And I apologise because I realise that standard, and I appreciate the standards.
You didn't sense he was a dimwit when he said second grade science?
You don't know what games people are playing, and sometimes people can feign stupidity to get you on the back foot. So while I see on the surface level, you go, isn't it obvious he was thick? Well, yeah, you could look at it at that, but sometimes that's just a surface level or a facade to catch you out, to catch you off guard, whatever. And, I've got to be wary of that as well. I don't want to give too much away in terms of my psychological assessment of any particular given new guest, but, it's not just as surface level as it might sometimes appear.
I understand.
No, there's no guarantee that the person is a fool or anything like that. They might come in and pretend they are, and it's all a ruse to give you that impression, and then they make a fool out of you. So you have to take everybody serious, no matter who they are. You can't just state straight out, oh, that person's a fool. You can't do that. You don't know. You don't know how smart the person is or what game they are playing.
Exactly. Well put.
An angle.
Go ahead. Is this the same guy? Perfect time.
Hold on a second. How can he make any of us a fool when he's in here promoting his sphere Earth? So that can never be done.
The General Joe is going to assume that he can come in here and just start
on the winning
mouthing
side.
off through the middle of someone else talking, like Neil does often, and then get the better of us, and they'll feel better for it because they've made a fool of us, right? Most people assume that coming into a flat earth show is going to be dead easy to make a fool of the people in there.
I'm saying, how are you going to make a fool of us? How? Tell me how somebody can make a fool of us when they're promoting sphere and we're promoting reality. That can never happen.
In the mind's eye of a Joe Normie, it can. They just say, you're an idiot. Ah.
Do you know what he was saying there?
I guess you're right there.
If you listen to what he was saying, right, because this is what I picked up on straight away. he's stating that you can't have a straight line to create an angle on a globe. That's basically what he's saying. Yeah, it's just a straight line, but you can have. He wasn't giving up. So he was making a claim. It's like making a claim underneath his breath. He wasn't giving away the full claim. He was making a kind of an inconspicuous claim, but it was still a claim. And if you don't listen to it, he's basically laughing at you then because you think that he doesn't know what he's talking about. When he's actually claiming a globe, but he's also claiming that you can have a straight line to make an angle on that globe. But he's not using the surface of the globe. That's exactly where he was going from what I could hear.
Right. See, there's always more to this than it sometimes meets the eye.
No, let me answer Brian. I know exactly what was going on. I have no patience for people who act that way. I knew what he was doing. I knew you were going to grab onto it because it's like fresh meat, right? I get it. I just have a different standard. That's all.
Yeah, and you got an apology out of me for it and my appreciation of that standard, which I do appreciate. In fact, I aspire to have that standard. Let's put it that way. I've got a lot of work ahead of me.
Well, I see your show having to evolve in order to really be more effective. And that's the direction I'd like to influence you on. Because if you make it educational in every aspect, and then it's just going to grow, because these little shots that they take, yeah, they're kind of fun because we see how stupid their arguments are. And how many years of that do we want any more of? When our goal is to get the findings, the education. I mean, I find some of the things that QE puts out as excellent information educationally, and then these guys come in and snipe it all. And it's like, okay, well, can't share that with kids anymore because it goes crazy. So the whole point is if we realize they're afraid of us, all of us getting that higher standard, so that this becomes that kind of almost like a college course, which it should be, it's over for these guys because then everyone's going to share it.
I hope so. And, you know, time rolls on and the show definitely improves.
Imagine all the ballers you just made cringe just now, right? Just by saying, oh, what if this is taught in school? Right? Meanwhile, in school, what are they telling the kids? You look outside your window, nothing you'll see is anything round like a ball. Everything looks flat. But 2,000 years ago, the Greeks used observation to invent globes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
I think this is a good time for you to read what your girlfriend's child in school got.
Pardon? Who are you talking about?
Chocolate. You have that handy?
You gotta give me a minute. I can go look for it real quick.
Well, he's doing that. Nathan,
I kind of just paraphrased it just now, but if you want me to read it verbatim.
No, read it verbatim and post it again.
Right. Give me a second.
Music.
You got it?
Yeah, ambiance now?
Chuck, if you got it, go ahead before me.
No, go ahead. I got to go find it in my gallery.
Okay. So this is a horizon system. Now, based on what we just read and saw, look at these three diagrams. Observer's rational horizon is a great circle on the celestial sphere, every point on which is 90 degrees away from the zenith. The plane of the observer's rational horizon, therefore, passes through the center of the Earth. So they got that picture, just like the first one on the previous slides that I shared. So they're assuming a globe. Now they've got their tangent plane, the rational horizon, which is same as the celestial horizon, and then the sensible horizon, which is a straight line at the eye line of the viewer who's standing on this thing. Okay, before they bring it down to the water surface. But it's, other times it is that same thing. They're confused. Let's go visible horizon. It's a small circle on the Earth's surface bounding the observer's field of vision at sea. Well, that's the offing, that visible horizon. We just read it. The radius of the visible horizon increases as the observer's heights increase, which is what we read from the 1899 book or whatever that year was, where it was debunked like we're debunking them, because it's on a flat plane, and the higher you go, the more of it you're going to see. But it's still, because of our eyes, creates an optical circle, but still on a flat plane. But you can see here, they got the sensible horizon above the surface of the Earth, and then you got the dip to the visible horizon, but where's that straight line? Now you see the offing here, they are putting the orthographic view of the Earth with a 4,000-mile radius, which doesn't exist. So this is how they fool you. And then the last one, sensible horizon, is a small circle on the celestial sphere, the plane of which passes through the observer's rational horizon. Well, rational horizon is through the center of the Earth. Sensible horizon is whatever amount of feet you're above sea level. And then they got the visible horizon going into space. And then they got, the physical geometrical horizon that doesn't exist. And then they've got a half of a curvature of a circle they call Earth. There's lots of problems with these people. They can't ever get it straight. Pun intended.
Just give me 1 second. I've got to reset my audio. Okay.
That's in Master B or Master D if you want.
One more time.
The post I posted something in Master B with
I thought that was what was supposed to be up when I had the last presentation on. So to those of you watching, I'm sorry, this last slides were out of order. I lost track of where we were supposed to be. But yeah, I've got it up. Can you see it? That wasn't the question. It was the title.
Yes. Who's
Yeah.
gonna read it?
Yeah,
Who's
it's
gonna
up.
read
It's up.
it?
It's up. It's on.
I mean, I can read it if you want.
Yes, please.
If it gets loud while I'm doing it, I apologize ahead of time. Okay. Can you see it? Just for context, this is a page out of a textbook that's currently in schools right now. That was in a, what, I think she was 9, 9-year-old textbook. Okay. Can you see it? Look out your window. What do you see? Is it flat or round? If you look out your window, you will see land for a distance that is flat. Maybe you might see a hill or a mountain. You could probably make your own map of what you see. What you don't see is anything round like a globe. So how were globes invented? More than 2,000 years ago, the Greeks used observation, skills, and math to figure out the shape and size of our planet. They invented globes, but it took hundreds more years before most people believed that the Earth was round. End of quote.
Perfect. Thank you, Chocolate. Did you dig that out? Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah. I've had this before. I've presented this on the show before. Just to show the juxtaposition, because the student, the girl, she pointed out the obvious crap in this statement, because she was like, wait a minute. They said that anything you look out your window, anything you see is flat. You will never see anything round like a globe. But then the Greeks used observation, so they saw the globe, and it was like an 8-year-old girl who picked that up and told the teacher that. And the teacher was like speechless, from what I know. Kids are smart, man.
Yes, they are. But the Greeks basically invented the mathematical considerations, right? That's what I think, that the globe originally was like a priestly tool to train yourself, to keep yourself engaged and like have a reason to do math, to keep yourself trained. So I think it was originally like a priestly tool, and then it got politicized, and Satan got a hold of it, right? To create an inside-out world where God doesn't exist, and you know the rest. But it didn't start out that way.
Did you say Satan?
Yep. Lies.
Hey,
Satan.
Do you have any
lies.
evidence of Satan?
No, it's a word. Right? Satan
it's just a
is
word?
lies.
Oh.
God is truth. Satan is lies.
Do you have
If
any
you
do you have any
apply
evidence
that-
for any of that?
It's esoteric. If you apply it within your understanding, then things will fall into place a lot. That's why I do it.
Oh, okay. Sounds like Narnia talk.
It's not a physics thing.
It's a bit too long because the devil's in the details, so it's going to take too long.
Ah, good one.
Reasonable objection, though. It's after show, so I'm not going to stop you. Feel free to challenge Arwin on his belief in Satan.
Can you provide us a picture, Arwen?
Well, what is Satan? Satan is not an individual, in my opinion. Satan is a force. It's a part of everybody. Or everybody has a potential for that. It's how we were designed. Satan is there.
Oh, it's potential now. So is it a force or potential?
It's a spiritual force and a frequency.
okay.
If you go there, if you go into it, then you migrate to that effect, to that. Yeah, this is all spiritual stuff, nothing physics. So it's no use inquiring with like physics lingo on this. Just warning you.
So mumbo jumbo. Got it.
Okay, well, if that's what you think about it, I found a lot of cohesion within this train of thinking. So I'm just going with that.
So it's a modality of thinking?
It's a pattern. It's a pattern to compare
So we got
with.
potential, force, pattern, frequency. This is interesting, Arwen.
No, this is not a physics field. Okay, so all these words don't mean the same thing. They more intuitive.
So it's metaphysical. Unmanifested?
Yes. What? Sorry?
It's metaphysically
last thing?
unmanifested. Is that what you're saying?
Unmanifested, no. No, it's definitely there. But it's the thing that our spirits can pick up. You can't pick it up physically.
Where's the spirit that you say you possess? What do you mean?
It's part of our consciousness. It's our unique abilities.
Like superpowers?
No, just human powers. This is what God designed us like, and we get our information from God, and we have a very unique position with our consciousness and our will and our decision making. Like, that is really what makes us stand out from animals, but we are very close to animals because we can be like animals, and animals can even attain temporarily like a piece of humanity if they will it.
Do you agree with this, Nathan?
I'm not claiming any of this. Do you hear me opening my mouth claiming it?
This is not Nathan's cup of tea.
I'd agree with a fair bit of what you said there, Owen, but this is not a flat earth question, is it? This is a spirituality, consciousness.
Any more questions?
I was just wondering if you had any empirical evidence for any of this, or if it's just based on your feelings.
What's the matter? Die slow.
Yeah,
You eat this destroyed?
No, it is. This is not empirical based, right? It's metadata. It's spiritual metadata. So yeah, there is empiricism involved in order to derive this sort of information. It's just extra information that's happening. There's a structure to it. And if you have the talent, then you can actually oversee the structures and compare them.
Way to go, Dice. So you get your ass kicked and go beat up the little brother.
No need. Come on.
It's true, though. He got slapped around with
Yeah,
this,
just
and
have a
now
little
he's starting with you for something else.
Come on. We're having a conversation here, Neil. Come on.
Yeah, relax. Let Owen deal
I'm
with
looking for a fight.
I know.
it. No shit.
Maybe that's that evil that Arwen was talking about coming out in Neil.
Yeah.
It's just the energy, you know. When you dive into the deeps, then you will be seduced from all sides, from the sides you love, right? The more.
What can you expect from Italians from Brooklyn?
Yes. No, but Neil is Neil, and Neil does what he does the best way he can, and I love him for it, right? And he's learning just like everybody else. He's always adapting just like everybody else, and I think he's doing a great job. Really, if I have to compare him now to like
Everybody
2 years ago,
except I slow.
there's some things that will never change, but there are some things that do change, and they change for the better.
Profound.
I am annoyed. I have an 18-hour drive. My vacation is over, so now it's back to reality.
I got a question for Dice Slow. You there, Dice Slow?
Kinda.
Well, what does that mean? Kinda.
Easy
In a
for it.
metaphysical
I'm
sense, he is.
passing through a tunnel at the moment, so we'll see.
Oh, okay. Well, let me know when you're out of the tunnel.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
All right. Well, it might be choppy if you're going through a tunnel. How long of a tunnel is it?
Go towards the light.
I'm almost out.
Are you out of the tunnel?
Yeah, I'm into the light. Go ahead.
All right, great. Hold on a second. First time breakfast came at the time. It sounds like QE here. What is ether to you?
Oh shit.
Ether to me is a field, essentially.
What kind of a field?
Did you catch that?
Yeah,
What kind of a field?
He asked you what kind of field.
Well, it's a conjugate field. It's a dielectric field and a magnetic field inducing one another.
Is it visible or invisible?
Well, it's contrasted.
What does that mean? I asked you a direct question. Can I see it? Is it manifested or is it invisible?
Well, again, it's comprised of two fields being one. So half of the field we can see, and the other half of the field is only contrasted within the visible field we can see. So
which half do I see?
I guess
which
you could.
Do I see?
Yeah, so it'd be like analogous to wind. Like you can't necessarily see wind blowing, but if you see a leaf blowing in the wind, then you kind of get a fair idea of what's taking place through the contrast of that leaf being physical, moving through something that doesn't appear to be physical, but has physical attributes.
You're describing wind. Is wind ether?
No, I'm giving you an analogy.
No, I want to know what ether is. So you said half I could see, half I can't. Keep it to ether.
Yeah, the dielectric.
What's the half that we can see? That would be really interesting. If there's a half that somebody who believes in ether is, we've got a half this side. What's the half this side that we can see, or even though it's not see, experience?
Yeah, you can interact with the magnetic side, but the dielectric side isn't necessarily visible to the human eye or material.
So it's magnetic we're talking about.
I don't know if I'm coming through clear or not, but I've said it a slew of times already. I don't understand what the disconnect is.
I asked you a question.
Because it's not particularly coherent. So that's why I'm trying to clarify. So on this, the physical side, this is something new by the sounds of it. Certainly as an explanation. So on this side, it's manifesting as what we would call magnetism, whereas on the other side, it's unmanifest and ether. But in terms of what we can experience, the only side we'll experience is the magnetic side of it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So it's magnetism then, not in terms of everything we can experience, describe it as, distinguish it from anything else. We would be happy with magnetism, or is there a distinguishment away from magnetism that sets it apart from what we know as magnetism?
Are you able to rephrase the question? I'm not really understanding
What, other than it being magnetism in the manifest world and whatever it is unmanifest, how would I distinguish that magnetism from ether? What is the distinguishment, or is it in the real world the only remnants of this etheric effect is magnetism?
I'm struggling to understand what you're asking, but where does magnetism come from? I mean, if you look at a magnetic field coming from a magnet, it appears to come from nothing and go to nothing.
No, it doesn't. It appears to come from the big magnet in front of me and go around it in a field. Quite clear where it's coming from. It's come from the magnetic source. Tends to be a big silvery thing.
Do you realize that there's no magnetism at the center of a magnet? Like, true magnetism lies at the plane of inertia, which is not.
Is that relevant?
I'm sorry, did I interrupt you? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, you said, do I realise? So I assume you wanted an answer. Yes, I'm aware of the claims that there's no magnetic effect within. Is it the dielectric plane you guys refer to it as? I'm not sure the relevance of that detail unless you are confirming that the only way in which we get manifest ether is as magnetism. That's the point I was trying to get to. We keep going back to magnetism when we're talking about ether. And that's why I'm just trying to get that distinguishment between the two, because I think we've had a lot of analogies, but every time we get in a bit of detail, the detail seems to be embedded in something other than the ether. So you seem to be saying something different, that actually this is the reality of what ether is. The only way we're going to experience it is this manifest version of magnetism.
So just to clarify what you're asking,
hold on, Chocolate.
Adam?
Hold on. No, there was genuinely no response to that. Oh, go ahead, my bad. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Nathan. I was just asking if he was asking me a question or just stating something. I couldn't tell.
Maybe you want to repeat that last bit, Adam. Sorry, Chocolate.
Well,
all good.
Chocolate seems to be able to understand this, so maybe you can reword it, Choc. Maybe it's my accent that's stopping it being a question.
My most basic knowledge of what you just said, were you trying to ask him, is magnetism the manifested version of ether? Something like that?
Spot on.
Unless I got that wrong.
That's spot on.
Yeah, Dysler, that's what Adam was trying to ask you. Is magnetism the manifested version of what you call ether?
Yeah, I would say so. I would also say electricity and light, all three are manifestations, physical manifestations of the ether being the loss of that dielectric field. Because that's essentially what magnetism is. It's the dielectric dissipation, what it should accurately be referred to.
Dielectric dissipation of what?
Yeah, as the dielectric field loses its energy, this is what creates the magnetic field.
But what's dissipating though? Is something virtual dissipating and then something being created? Or is something actually dissipating? Like, where's the actual thing?
Yeah, it would be the inertia.
The inertia where, in real space or in counter space?
Counter space. Counter space and dielectric field are synonymous.
So that's the ether, though, isn't it? Counter space.
Yeah. Counter space is the medium of the dielectric, which is the presence of the ether under torsion, or is meant dielectric charge.
That sounds a bit chanty, that. Do you want to just explain that? Because that went from one to the other in this triple synergy where one is the other, which is the other. You just break that down. So over here,
so
in reality...
The smaller the space, the higher the dielectric or capacitance. So space is the attribute of the magnetic, which itself is the absence of or the discharge of the dielectric.
Wow.
Wait, what?
Thought that was pretty straightforward. I'll repeat it again.
So what's the actual thing? What's the actual thing depleting?
Yes, I'll repeat it again. The smaller the space, the higher the dielectric.
We weren't talking about spaces. We were talking about we're still trying to clarify what's dissipating in counter space to create the magnetic field over here once it's dissipated in counter space. That's where we got up to from the claim, not how the size of the space will have any effect on potency, just what's dissipating.
Well, like I just said, dielectric is the capacitance potential of counter space. So the loss of that is defined as magnetism. So increasing potential terminating towards and into counter space is so defined as the increasing of the dielectric inductance or charge. It's that simple.
So the thing we measure and experience as magnetism, that's described as something we can't experience or validate the description because it's happening in counter space. This dissipation.
Domino's Pizza, can I help you?
Damn, to me, Market, you kill them, we'll kill them.
Start with dice. You're shitting all over us.
Yeah, but just can we go back to that though? Because we've got things dissipating. What is dissipating for us to experience magnetism?
Like as I stated, capacitance.
Capacitance in counter space. So capacitance isn't a thing, is it? It's the amount of a thing that can be described as capacitance, yeah? So in of itself, that isn't a thing. What has the counter space got the capacity for? What is the thing?
Capacitance is the ability to hold energy or hold charge.
So it's energy or charge, which?
Yeah. Potential energy.
Energy or charge.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Energy or charge, or he's saying both.
What's the difference?
You tell me. It's not my theory. I couldn't tell you.
There is no difference. That's why I used both words to try to help be a little bit more clear.
It's not really, because if you use different words, it implies different meanings, doesn't it? Not the same meaning. Even though those two words do have different meanings. That's why I asked for the distinguishment between the two words. But I'm asking you, in your theory, yeah, what is it? Is it energy or is it charge?
Energy and charge are synonymous. They're literally the same thing.
They're not literally the same thing at all. That's why we have different words for them.
So then can you differentiate?
Well, that's why I was asking you to just clarify which one it is and how that then allows the capacitance of energy, how that then allows the dissipation in counter space to create magnetism in real space. That seems to be where we're up to.
Say it's the same thing. You say they're different. Can you give me a differentiation between the two, or can you define either one, or at least one?
A charge. Was it a negative charge or a positive charge? And
no such thing as a negative charge.
Energy. What type of energy are we talking? There you go. I've differentiated
There's
the
no
two.
such thing as There's no such thing as a negative charge. Whether we're talking about kinetic or potential, energy is energy.
No, but we're talking about charge, not energy. You keep flipping.
Same thing. Once again, I don't know how many times I got to say this. Unless you can differentiate the two, then why would we assume that they're anything different?
What's the charge on a proton?
Energy.
The charge is energy, and the charge on an electron, is that energy as well?
There is no such thing as an electron.
No. And there we go. So the reality is where we're actually arguing is whether or not, and it sounds like in ether world, yeah, that charge and energy have no differentiation between each other. They exactly the same. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about this, though. You know, even Ethereans don't deny electrons. This is ridiculous.
It doesn't matter. Currently, we're saying charge and energy are the same thing. We can use them interchangeably, and no matter, it doesn't matter which we use when we're talking about etheric magnetism. From what I can see, charge and
if you did want to differentiate the two, I would say charge would be more on the side of capacitance, where energy would be the release of that capacitance, which often gets confused as energy, but it's actually the dissipation of energy. True energy is in a state of rest. That would be like the softball-sized lump of plutonium, where you would say the atom bomb the release of that energy would be energy, but it's actually impotency of energy versus energy dissipation.
So they are different.
You believe in the atom bomb?
Oh, sideways, mate. Yeah.
Sorry.
It was an analogy just to kind of help showcase the difference between impotency versus dissipation of energy.
Right. So
you guys always now at the stage where people when they're giving their answers. I mean, it makes it really difficult to have a conversation when I got three people trying to chime in with their feelings, thoughts, and beliefs.
Thank you. So we're now at the point of clarity where we do have a distinguishment between charge and energy. So can we go back to the original description then, in terms of I'm experiencing my magnetic field here in reality, and the causation for that is a dissipation of, is it charge or energy? What is dissipating in counter space to give me my magnetism in the real world? Was it charge or energy?
Do we need the countdown?
Want to rephrase that a little better? I mean, it sounded a little butchered. I don't know. It was just me.
What the hell?
Come on, that's a perfectly clear question.
It was. Just ask again.
Okay, so when I'm experiencing magnetism in reality, the explanation you've been giving to me is a dissipation of, and we made a distinguishment between charge and energy. I'm just asking you to tell me which it is that's dissipating in counter space to give me in reality my magnetic experience.
So, yeah, I was kind of struggling to follow that. But the dielectric manifests and vanishes into counter space, whereas magnetism manifests space itself.
Yeah, we're not having any trouble following that. It was perfectly clear.
That's a bunch of techno.
OMG, dude.
It's just a bunch of techno.
I'm sorry, Adam. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I think that summarises it. If you can't answer that question after just with either charge or energy, that's very telling to me. After the way we've just been through that carefully, these are all your claims. I'm just asking for clarity on them. And when we get to the point of clarity, I don't know. I don't know why you needed to give that bit of rhetoric. It was
dielectric is just the torsional
energy.
attribute of energy, whereas magnetism is the release of that torsional
Do you not
energy.
understand what you believe? Is that what's going off here? Because I'm a bit confused. If I was a believer in ether, I'd be able to answer that question. I'd be able to say whether or not it's the dissipation of energy or the dissipation of charge in counter space, yeah, that's creating the effect in the real world manifested as magnetism. Why are you struggling with this very simple point?
Just answered the
is it
question.
charge or energy then?
I just told you. I said dielectric is the torsional attribute of energy, whereas magnetism is the release of that torsional energy.
Yeah, that doesn't answer the question I asked you, was it? What is dissipating in counter space? Is it the charge or the energy?
Energy.
Energy. Thank you. Wasn't a trick question.
Dielectric is the inverse of force, and the loss of that dielectric force or magnetism. So voltage is the dielectric, and current pop is magnetism. I don't understand why you're not catching on to what I'm putting down.
What I don't understand.
Because it's in its very essence, it's non-validatable, isn't it? Because all of these things are happening in counter space to yield the only thing we experience, which is magnetism. So it's hard to validate, and it's even harder to understand it when it takes 10 minutes to describe whether we're talking about energy or charge.
Maybe this last statement will help clarify it for you. So maybe this last statement will help clarify it for you. I don't care for the feelings. I mean, let's just get to the facts. So dielectric has two modalities. One, in loss as so deemed magnetism, and lastly, as torsional or cyclical energy as carried in tandem with magnetism, so deemed electricity and light. I mean, it's literally that simple.
So energy and light are the effect of what occurring in counter space. So we've come up with how magnetism is unappreciated, yeah? It's the dissipation of energy, you're saying, in counter space. So how is light generated, and what's the differential in this counter space creation? What's different to the formation of light to magnetics?
It's kind of a loaded butcher question, dude. Do you want to rephrase that better?
Okay, yeah. So you've explained to us that we've got the dissipation of energy in counter space to give us the experience of magnetism in the real world. What is occurring within the counter space, which I'm assuming is ether? What's occurring differently there for us to get light as opposed to magnetism? Or are we all on the same spectrum?
I mean, you would have to understand the definement of either one of those two things, which I don't think is going to go over in a 2-minute conversation.
We've got all day.
If I hear one more, can you rephrase that question? I know where you're coming from.
Just one sec. We've got all day. Feel free. Just expand on it. Just try. I don't know what to do, guys. I mean, I've taken the complete opposite approach today. The standoff, let them, put a rope around their own neck. But I mean, I can't coax him. I can't coax him at this point. I can't encourage him. What can I do to get him to... I'm at a loss. Die slow.
I just gave you the clue, Nathan. When he said more than, 4 occasions, can you rephrase that question? He's scrambling. And then
his accent is very hard for me. keep up with. And then the way he asks loaded questions, it's like 2 or 3 questions.
Stop. He doesn't ask loaded
bundled
questions.
in one.
We're not interested in your feelings, thoughts, and beliefs.
Excellent job, 10th.
Answer the question.
You're wondering why I have to ask him to rephrase the question.
And there were no loaded questions there. You don't know what a loaded question is. Ask the last question to him again, Adam. I think we lost the question because we ended up in this tangled mess.
Can you round it out with a conclusion as well?
Well, the question that I was asked was, I was just told that it's probably a bit difficult for me to understand how light and magnetism are different. We've gone through quite a long-winded, long-routed way to get to what within this description magnetism is constituted as. It's constituted, from what I can understand, as the dissipation of energy, which is different to charge, as we got to. And then I was asking, if that's how magnetism is formed in counter space, what's the differential then as to how light is formed to manifest in reality? What's happening in counter space there if we're not dissipating energy for the magnetic field? What are we doing to generate light? And is that generated within a field still? Or what are we generating when we generate light within this theory? And how does that contrast to what you've just described, how a magnetic field will be generated through the dissipation in counter space of energy?
Yeah, I don't know if I have enough time to really get into the finite details to answer that accurately.
It's not that it will take too long now. It's you don't have enough time.
Some details?
My God. This is where I lost all hope last time, Adam. I'm sorry.
Could I add something to the whole thing?
I think that's pretty much okay. Yeah, go ahead, Brian. That's the end, obviously.
Okay, let me know if there's any too much of background noise. Dice flow. I think there's a major category error going on here. Because, let's be honest, the claim you're making is more of a spiritual belief as opposed to something that's validatable in the physical and natural world. You have to claim that there's something happening that's causing these other things that we can prove happen. Now, what the origin of magnetism is doesn't matter. If you're claiming the origin is this thing, then that's fine. But you've got to state it as a spiritual belief. You can't claim it as something that's validatable, because it's not. You can't physically validate it. Even in how you're describing it, you can't physically validate it. So it's a category area. You're trying to have a natural world debate, and your position is something that is a spiritual belief. So it's no different than what you asked Darwin. He can only believe that. He can't physically validate it. So you're arguing from a point that you can't.
Just leave it at that. You got any reaction to that, Dicelo? You were the one who made the comparison.
I would say that's a good point. But however, if that were the case, then we wouldn't have electrical theory to begin with. We wouldn't have the entire electrical grid, because all of this was built and constructed upon the notion of the dielectric field.
Or Satan, because of the consciousness, or someone from the G plus Z Narnia.
Maybe,
it's just
but unfortunately they didn't use Satan when engineering all this. They used the dielectric field. So this is what was spoken of by.
We're just using you as a comparison.
This is what was spoken of by.
It's okay. Don't get triggered.
Tesla,
don't get triggered.
Steinmetz,
he's not. He's triggered.
Faraday,
He won't let a word get through. No, that's it. Done.
Come on, man.
So when we use his comparison against him, immediate triggered everyone occurs. Yeah, we've compared and contrasted your own comparison to debunk your assertions, and you don't like it.
I don't have any dislikes. I don't know what you're talking about.
No,
what's up with name drops? What's up with the list of name drops? What is that supposed to engender?
The list of name drops was to showcase the fact that all of these prominent figures were understood on the dielectric field, and this is what allowed them to have such innovation.
Understood.
Maxwell got debunked back in Einstein's time. Haven't you heard?
Yeah, but did he get debunked on the dielectric field, or was that something separate?
He got debunked, period. Electrodynamics got debunked in less than 15 seconds.
Oh, okay.
Hold on.
So we don't use Maxwellian
hold on.
field
Everyone
equations.
stop.
No, we don't.
Hold on, QE. Did you know that? It sounds like you didn't know that.
People get debunked on all sorts of stuff. That doesn't mean that everything they said was invalid.
I didn't say that. I said electrodynamics.
Exactly. Can you just repeat that? Hold on. I'm now interjecting where I shouldn't be. Can you just repeat that, QE?
Yeah, I didn't say he was wrong on everything. I don't know everything that the gentleman said. I don't even know the man. Just what people say, right? So his electrodynamics were debunked. Period.
Okay, so he didn't help further our understanding on electrical systems? Is that what you're claiming?
I am claiming electrodynamics is debunked. That's what I'm claiming.
Well, that's new news to me, because the last I thought I could plug in a device and generate an electrical circuit, but okay.
A device, electrical circuit, transistors.
Transistor is the only reason why we have an electrical circuit?
Now, let's just stay with electrodynamics for now. With Maxwell's theory. And then we'll get into
he had a theory about the ether that was wrong. So I agree on that level, but I don't think everything that Maxwell did was wrong.
Look, the ether's only been an inspiration.
Yeah. There's Maxwellian ether. There's Maxwellian
ether now. What's that?
It was a horrible postulation as to what the ether was, involving some sort of a cellulose fabric.
Wow.
I don't agree with it, and neither did Tesla.
Look, the whole problem is that ether has been out there for a long time. No, but seriously, this is a point that needs to be hammered through. Ether's been out there for a long time. It's something that a lot of physicists, like actual accomplished people, have bumped into and then been tested by it. But it's an aberration, and a lot of them actually realized that way back in the past. That's why they didn't get obsessed with it and started hammering on it. Because this is a natural challenge you're going to face if you're going to try to figure out
Thompson had an ether too. J.J. Thompson called it interdimensional or intermolecular dimensionality. That's how J.J. Thompson referred to it.
It goes, look, this is something that just everybody's going to bump into if they're going to really grab upward.
That's like a bunch of shit.
It's a challenge.
After QE, I'd like to come back in.
After QE, I don't know where to go with this now. I mean, I don't know. Just an aberration, I guess. Holy shit.
I know, right?
Well, can I continue my line of questioning on him then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so Dyslow, when I said to you that you were maybe in a category error and that it was more of a spiritual belief, you said the dielectric field, and you start referring to that. Is that physically validatable?
If we're referring to the dielectric field primarily, no. It would be non-physical. It would be non-scienceable. It would be out of the realm of physicists and more into the realm of field dynamics.
Yeah.
Arwen, you gotta settle down.
Hold on, everyone stop. Arwen, please don't do that, because he's just going to latch on to whatever utterings you put to him. Please let Brian go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
Thank you, Nathan. So both the ether and what you're claiming to be this dielectric field are both non-validatable in physical reality. That means they're both concepts or spiritual beliefs, which means you can't claim they're causing something or doing something, as the dielectric field seems to be just a description the same way as a lot of things are used as a description, like the molecular model, for instance. It's a way of describing. But you can't claim that the dielectric field is even real, because it's not validatable in reality. And if the dielectric field is the ether, then basically the dielectric field is also just a spiritual belief. Because ether started, according to history. No, hang on. It's not a straw man. I'm using what you told me. Ether started in history, according to what Google says, as a spiritual belief, and it has never been proven to be anything other.
Well, when we started out on this conversation, I told you that ether was these two fields as one, and you're just solely trying to refer to the primary field being the dielectric as non-manifested. Therefore, it's not real. But that's only half the story. As I've already told you, it's not a thing of itself. It's comprised of two things. It's a consubstantial relationship. These two fields together is what makes up the entirety of the ether.
So the dielectric field is only half of the ether. What's the other half?
Like I told you, the magnetic field. So these two fields.
No. The magnetic field. Hang on, sorry. No, that is you trying to claim reality. You're trying to hijack reality at that point. We have a magnetic field. You claim that this has something to do with what you're calling the dielectric field. But you're also calling the dielectric field ether, and you also admitted that both ether and the dielectric field cannot be validated in 3D reality. So all you have is magnetism and postulations about what causes it. That's all you've got. So you can't go out into the public and state, this is causing that. You can't do that. It's wrong. It's the same thing. It's no different than gravity in that way. Now, I'm not trying to shoehorn you in as being a gravity believer. My point is, it's no different.
You're falsely equivocating a magnetism, and a magnetic field being all three one and the same thing.
I'm not equivocating anything. Alwyn, please shut up. I'm not equivocating anything, right? I know that magnetism exists. What the cause
let me ask you a question.
I don't know.
Hold on, just one sec. Just let him respond, Dicelo. It won't be long.
Yeah. Thank you, Nathan. I know that magnetism exists, right? What the cause of magnetism is, I don't know. But I know that I can't make up things that I'm claiming are the cause of it and then have no physical 3D validation for those things. So regardless of what you say, you've already said the ether and the dielectric field are not validatable in 3D reality. So where do you go from there?
It's a logical supposition, and that's why when I question Nathan about his sky container, it's a necessary antecedent to a
but it's not a necessary antecedent. Hang on, Kiwi, it's okay. It's not a necessary antecedent because we can prove that gas pressure requires containment. We can prove that here in 3D reality. You can't prove, you have no antecedent to call an antecedent when it comes to magnetism. You are hijacking reality. That's what you're doing. It's dishonest.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm sure if we had more time to discuss this, maybe I could point to some inferences that are only logically implied.
Inferences? He said inferences and logic. What type of logic are you using?
I think you need to clarify things for yourself for a while.
What type of logic are you using?
I'm following natural order. Logic?
You're talking about a natural cause and effect relationship, aren't you? You're saying, because magnetism, that's a natural effect, correct? Dependent variable.
Yeah.
What's the independent variable? Yep, there you go. Nothing. You got nothing. You've got an argument from ignorance fallacy.
Maybe I don't have an answer off the top of my head, but
you got an argument from ignorance fallacy. That's all you got. That's all it is.
But is he saying that it's the cause, or he's saying that that's what it is, until it manifests into magnetism, and then it's not ether anymore. Because before, what he said was that ether is magnetism is ether manifested, right?
Partly.
Okay. So then, would the magnetism be caused by the ether? Because it wouldn't be caused, because if it was before it was manifested into magnetism, it was ether. So something had to cause the ether to manifest into magnetism. But the ether wouldn't be the cause of the magnetism, because that's what it was before. I mean,
thanks.
am I wrong?
I couldn't. We need the emissary. Emissary.
Die slow. You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I was gonna say, Napalm seems pretty understood on some of these things that maybe I'm not able to answer for you off the top of my head. I don't know if he's able to speak or not, but I think he got deaf yesterday. Napalm, you there? Are you able to chime in?
I understood what you said, John.
But real quick for you though, because you've been the one talking, right? So before, Adam asked, is magnetism the manifested version of ether? And you said yes, right? Am I right there? Okay. But you're not saying that ether is the cause of magnetism, right? Because ether was the magnetism when it wasn't manifested. But then it manifests and then it becomes magnetism, right? So you're not saying it's a cause and effect relationship. You're saying it's what it is until something happens and then it manifests and then now it's magnetism. Am I wrong? Because I'm really trying to understand where you guys are coming from. Like, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm saying the loss of the dielectric field is what generates the magnetic field. So
the loss of the dielectric field, but the dielectric field was the ether. So that loses itself and then becomes magnetism?
Again, the dielectric field and the magnetic field in unison is what ether is. It's not just one of the fields. It's the both of the fields is what ether is spoken of. The dielectric field.
Okay, so then when both of those fields become just the one, I'm sorry, man. So you're saying it's the two fields together, right? And when when those two fields become just the one, that's when it manifests as just magnetism.
I can clear it up for you, Chocolate, if you like.
Go for it.
Yeah, what he's claiming is that magnetism starts out as the ether, but when the ether loses the dielectric field, it manifests itself as magnetism. But he also claimed that, well, not claimed, he admitted that there is no 3D validation, 3D physical validation for the dielectric field or for the ether. So it's a concept that this is where magnetism and electricity comes from or whatever. So it starts out as a pure concept and it ends up as reality. And that's fine to have a concept, or it's fine to have a belief, whether it be spiritual or just a belief. But the point is that if you can't validate that belief in 3D reality, then what you're trying to do at that stage is hijack reality. It's no different than our opposition claiming elevation angles to Polaris as some kind of a globe proof, because they can quadruple the 5,400 nautical miles and turn it into a circle and get a radius of that circle. That's no different. It's the same thing. And so maybe you don't realize that this is what's going on, but this is what's happening if you're claiming ether and dielectric field. And I
can see how it comes across that way.
Sorry?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I see how it comes across as being like that. And I don't fault you for having that notion, but I think maybe if I did a better job at explaining, you would be able to see what's being spoken of in terms of the the elucid validation of the dielectric field. I might not be doing a good enough job here. So, but
even if, well, let me ask you this. Let's say Ken Wheeler was here. Ken Wheeler would also have to admit that the dielectric field and ether are not validatable in 3D reality, wouldn't he? Or with Slit or any rest. They would all have to admit the same thing, wouldn't they?
Not for nothing. I do respect what he just said, though.
I think Napalm wanted to chime in. Maybe he's got something to share.
One second,
Yeah.
please. Just 1 second. Please, just answer the question I asked you there. If Ken Wheeler or Whitsitt or anyone else who you would feel was knowledgeable on this, if they were here and any of us asked them, is the dielectric field and or ether validatable in 3D reality, in our 3D physical reality, they would have to answer no, wouldn't they? Regardless of what influences they might be
again,
made.
if to be as honest as possible, if we're speaking solely about the dielectric field, then no, you're not going to validate it. It has to be in contrast with something in order to see its presence or quantify it in any sort of a physical format. And with that, I'm going to open the floor to Napalm because it sounds like he really wanted to get in and touch on this.
Well, before you open,
hold on, 10th. Hold on. Fair enough. He's tried twice. Just let him. Go ahead, Napalm.
Yeah, no, I think, Dyslo, I think where you may be struggling to elucidate your ideas is when you're talking about the loss of the dielectric or the dielectric under torsion. It might be easier to equate when they say, what is the cause? It might be easier to equate that to a different pressure modality and use the example of the different pressure modalities of something like water. Might be an easier picture for them to grasp.
Okay, Nathan, let me ask you the same question I asked Dyslo. Is the ether validatable in 3D physical reality?
When you mean validatable, it is
like we can validate
in effect
water,
validatable.
we can validate anything to physically exist. Is it physically validatable in 3D reality?
Either itself or the dielectric field, the pure potential. I don't know if it necessarily would be.
Are any of them validatable in physical 3D reality?
What would be your standard of validation?
Reality, something being real, something that we can really encounter, experience, measure, all those kind of things. Like water, I just use water again, not trying to be smart, just ask me an honest question. I can validate water exists. I can validate gas exists, stuff like that. Can I validate that ether or the dielectric field exists in 3D reality?
I can't think of a way to necessarily quantify that aspect of ether when it's in its pure state. No, I don't think so.
Well, it would be fair then for someone to view what you're talking about, right, as a belief, a concept, a possibility. You know, whether the belief be just a physics belief or a spiritual belief. The point is that it's fair for us to say, well, you just have a belief then. You know, that's where our problem with this whole ether thing is that it's been claimed to cause things, but it's not validatable in physical reality. But that's the problem.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it would be directly validatable, but it might be validatable as something similar to the opposite side of an equation within mathematical equations in physics that are necessary for the explanations of things that we see.
Through
mathematics.
inference.
Yeah, hang on.
Hold on. Mathematics is not physics, and mathematics cannot explain anything. It can only describe.
Yeah.
Go on.
The conclusion has been
Arwen, 1 second. Sorry.
inference.
Arwen, please, 1 second. So, fair enough. So, what you're saying is, for what you believe is the cause of magnetism and whatever other things surrounding electricity, magnetic field, whichever, you believe that this background thing is a cause of that. Now, I can't see the problem with that is I don't know what causes the magnetic field. I don't know if anyone does know what causes the magnetic field. But I can't go out into the public and state that such and such a thing is the cause of the magnetic field if I can't validate its reality. That's our problem with this whole thing. You know, showing someone maths and that is no different than what we got shown by our opposition several years ago and throughout the past few years. That's just being honest. There's nothing wrong with having a belief in something, but you can't claim it in public as being a cause.
Right. So can I give you kind of a similar example that may deal with the quantum side of things? And somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be.
No.
What's that?
No, you can't.
If he wants, I'll deal with it.
All right, go ahead, Brian. You deal with it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it was Dirac that came up with this idea of the Dirac sea, and it was disproven to be kind of his concept, but his ideas of the Dirac sea and these negatively charged particles that weren't necessarily seen but were necessary for the math to work out helped to further along some of the equations within quantum mechanics, right? So it was this concept or this idea that was necessary in order for the functions to work out that comported to reality, even though these paired negatively charged particles were not necessarily detected or able to be proven as present. They were assumed to be present in order for the equations to work out. So that's just a similar example.
Right. But is that not just a description then? Somebody describes something?
Correct.
So it wasn't
this is where,
a claim of a cause, was it? Was it a claim of a cause or a description in its infancy?
It was a description as to why what was happening was happening. If you want to put it that way.
Or an explanation.
I don't have a lot of time because I have to jump on a call for work, but I just wanted to say one thing before I have to jump on that call, is that some of these similarities between what Deisler is saying and what some things within the quantum realm are alluding to.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
I think are chasms,
No.
are good chasms to be able to build a bridge between the two philosophical framework that both sides are coming to.
Fallacy. False analogy fallacy. There's no bridge. There's nothing there. You're conjuring it. Talking mathematics. That's all you're talking about. It's a joke.
The presupposition that Ballers had was along the same lines as this. The boats are disappearing bottom first because the Earth must be a ball. And then they created a whole lie around it. This is no different. They have a presupposition of something. It's not manifested in the 3D world. Then they have to build this whole entire edifice around it. And then when asked questions, they say, we're not interested in feelings, thoughts, and beliefs when that's all they have.
Well, what I'd say is that we got to, sorry, go on, Q.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with 10. He's exactly right.
Well, well, let me finish it, because Die Slow went away too quickly for me. Is he still here?
He's walking.
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm waiting to get started on my next job here, but
what was
I got a little bit of
real
time.
quick? What was your real quick, if I may? Now I have a different take on your first question you asked Arwen, because I take the biblical view of who Satan is. But why did you ask that question of Arwen?
What was the question that you're specifically referring to?
You said, do you believe in the literal, actual Satan?
Oh, no, I was busting his balls.
Oh, no, that was the point you were trying to make. What was it?
That's right, 10, you're on it.
We all know what it is.
What's that?
If you're not gonna,
What's
we all
that?
know what it is if you're not going to say it.
Yeah, we know what it is. I want him to say it. No one help him.
What?
Oh, don't act dumb now.
What? A supernatural deity? Is that what you're looking for? Or I don't understand.
No, I'm asking you your motivation without clowning, and put that aside. There was a bigger reason why you asked Arwen that question. What was the bigger reason if he had answered it differently? What would you have said?
The only reason I asked him is because it's a metaphysical, philosophical inference, being that Satan is a supernatural deity that can't be necessarily measured, validated, or quantified. It's a belief system.
Like ether?
Like you guys like to refer to
Like ether?
Yes.
Like
What?
ether? Like ether? Not manifested? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, as you guys refer to it, just like
No,
the ether.
you just said you were chopping his balls. Now you said the reason you asked them was because you can't measure it, not manifest it. And I said like ether, and you're now going to answer how?
Well, again, the ether isn't specifically just the dielectric field, which can't be quantified. It's the
hang on for a
conjoinment
second.
of the magnetic and the dielectric field, and the magnetic
you're
field
just
can
going-
be quantified.
You just keep going in circles. Look, I've actually been in California Street in San Francisco. I've seen the First Church of Satan. I've talked to Satanists. The Church of the Devil is manifested here on earth. Where's ether?
Manifested here on Earth.
Where is it? I could take you to the Church of Satan. Take me to ether.
It's all around you, man. Everywhere you see
Take me to
electricity, light, and magnetism is you're seeing.
That's electricity, light, and magnetism.
Please. So I'm going to now do what the ballers did with ships disappearing and make up crap and use things that on their own mean something else and say, well, it's a part of that, it's a part of this. You make a little borscht soup and you get ether. Is that what you're doing?
No.
Yeah, that's what you're doing.
No.
Because people have come on and said it's not manifested, but it's got to be there. Earth curve, we can't see it, but it's got to be there. You're no different than them.
It's contrasted in the magnetic field, bud. I don't know, why you're
Why
having
you
such
keep using magnetic
disconnect.
field to describe ether that can't be manifested? Adam said you see it right there. It's a silver thing. It's a magnet, and it causes a field around it. Without the magnet, there is no field. We can manifest that. Why can't you manifest ether?
But again, like I've already showed you that you can. Like when you look at a magnetic field, why are you talking through me, dude? Why are you talking through me? I understand you don't. I understand you don't want this to be a thing. I get it. I get it. You're trying as hard as you
I
can.
can do what you guys do.
But
You've had the whole
unfortunately,
show.
truth speaks for itself.
Yeah, that's right. You're going to always say that truth speaks for itself. You're not interested in what the words you used exactly. What was those words? Feelings.
I'm not helping you out, kid.
No, you're not helping me out because you can't help me out. That's the problem. You're going to go to magnetism when you don't have any proof for ether. You're going to go to something else when you don't have any proof for ether.
What do you think magnetism is, 10th man?
His example is to say that you go to magnetism when you don't have proof of ether, and your response is to ask him what magnetism is.
Yeah.
Did I make a claim of what magnetism is, or are you saying it's ether?
I'm making the claim and you're denying it. So if you're going to deny it, then you've got to have something to refute it with.
Yeah, I am. I want.
Hold on, stop
3D world
Hold on,
proof.
just one sec. No, the burden's on you, the claimant. It's not on him. It's on you. Do you not know the burden of proof? He who makes the claim is the one who has to shoulder the burden of proving it.
Right, and when I do that, he simply just waves his hand and says, "No, sorry, not accepting it." Not a lot I can do about that.
You didn't do that. You haven't given it an answer because I've done some research on ether. It's supposed to be the wind of God, the breath of God, invisible. That's what I mean. I could go get Maxwell's.
Like I've told you guys several times, there's over 100 different postulations as to what the ether is throughout the history of mankind. So I don't understand what ether you're referring to, but it might not be the ether that I'm explaining to you.
Oh, you're equivocating. So it's an equivocation fallacy at its base, correct? Because when we destroy one of those hundreds, then you'll just pop out with another definition of it, right? Like you've been doing the past 3 weeks.
No, I'm not jumping around from different ethers. I'm sticking with Tesla ether.
Tesla ether. Go ahead and cite that, please. I need a citation.
It's everything I've been sharing with you.
Before you do that, what's a postulation?
Everything I just given you. Pertaining to the dielectric and the magnetic field.
No, I don't mean what is your... Guys, stop a second. No, I don't mean what is your postulation in regards to ether. I mean, what is a postulation?
Something being set forth as fact.
Is it?
That's how I take it.
A suggestion or assumption of the existence, fact, or truth of something as a basis for reasoning.
Okay. Thought I summed it up a little shorter and concise, but if that's what you want to go with, that's fine. I don't see any disconnect.
You used the word. I think it's profound. You said postulation, and a postulation is a suggestion or assumption of the existence, fact, or truth of something as a basis of reasoning. Now, postulation is probably the best possible word you could use when describing ether. But that's all it is.
Yeah, I mean, there's no absolutes unless you can share some.
Merely a suggestion by you.
Hold on.
By you.
There's no absolutes?
Just suggesting it to us, right?
Give me an absolute fact.
Do you know what you can do with your suggestions? Hold on, guys. Can you guys in G Plus shut up?
Oh, God.
So it's just a suggestion then?
What was that, Nathan? You got cut off.
Just a suggestion then?
Suggestion?
Yeah, the postulation. It's merely a suggestion of the assumption.
That's
or
why
the existence.
That's why we call it ether field theory, not ether field fact.
Theory has
ether field theory.
Unlike postulation, theory has another connotation in science, i.e. something that's been validated by experiment. That's a scientific theory. Colloquially, theory, no, we're not talking about that. But postulation, no, that's much more apt, because it's just a suggestion. However, this suggestion, or mere assumption of this existence that you're basing this on, aka a postulation, is just that. It's just a suggestion. You guys suggest that ether might be real. And I asked, do you know what you can do with your suggestion?
Nathan, you're missing an empty moment and a short moment. Die slow. Let's fill in the recording. What did you say about absolutes?
Can you give me an absolute fact?
No, but after that, did you say absolutes exist or don't exist?
I'm saying, coming from your science, is there any absolutes?
What did you say? Do absolutes exist or don't exist?
Just
Give
said
me a
it.
yes or no.
Coming from your science, is there any absolutes?
No. I'm asking you directly. Don't back off anymore, Chicken Little.
Hello?
Do you believe in
Chance, you there?
absolutes or not?
Is this interrogation tactic?
Yes.
I'm asking you a question, and you're refusing to answer.
Do you believe
You're
in
asking me
absolutes or
a
not?
question when I've just asked you a question. Is that how this works?
No, hang on, John. Hang on, John. This guy who accuses himself of his feelings, thoughts, I want him to tell me, does he believe absolutes exist or not in our world?
I'm asking you. Why are you gonna flip it around back on me when I asked you the question first? That makes no sense.
You made a statement, and QE and John wanted to jump in. Nathan held him off. Now I'm going back to your statement. Please repeat your statement.
That's what
Are there
I wanted to
any
get to.
absolutes within your science?
Do you believe in absolutes in this world or not?
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you.
Why are you so scared to answer?
No. Let this play out because we know exactly where this is going. You don't believe in any absolutes, do you?
Never made that claim. I'm asking you.
Oh, well,
From
he's
your
put it, hold on,
methodology-
stop. But he's just put it to you quite overtly. So can you just answer him? He broke the deadlock, Dicelo. So come on. You don't have any absolutes, or you don't have any faith in absolutes. That's what he's putting to you.
I mean, that's fine. He can make that assumption, but I'm asking him from his understanding.
He won't do it. Chicken Little. I've got you.
He did.
Chicken Little.
He did make an absolute. He said there are no absolutes as an absolute.
Yeah, I know. We were going to get to that.
Bust them on. Where I got stopped.
All three of us.
So you just train wrecked yourself. You snatched your own wig off your head. In other words, die slow, nothing.
I'm not worried about it.
All right, just so we're
Not worried
clear,
about it,
do you
Kiwi.
understand what's just happened? I just want to check that you actually understand what's just happened. Dicelo.
What I'm doing is projecting his beliefs by saying that there's no absolutes in science.
Stop. Try and keep up with the conversation. Right. Do you appreciate, now it's been pointed out to you, that to make the statement, I mean, let's add the word absolutely. There is absolutely no absolutes. Do you understand that that in and of itself is self-defeating because it's a statement?
Yeah, that doesn't sound too good. Is that what I said, though?
You said there are no absolutes.
Numpty clip.
Yeah. Numpty clip.
I don't do numpty clip.
So try a second time, Dicelo. Do you understand? Hold on, Dicelo. Don't get triggered. Just let me try once more. Do you understand how that's a self-defeating statement?
Yes, I do.
Excellent, thank you.
So, Tent, can you give me some absolutes?
Normally when someone snatches their own wig off, and it takes 2 attempts for us to point it out at the point of concession, typically that isn't your cue to carry on talking there, Dicelo, no offence.
Yeah, but I mean...
Yeah, shut up, you stuttering twat. Shut up. Go ahead, Brian, sorry.
Sorry, did Dicelo actually state that there was no absolutes? Because he was referring to something as being not an absolute, as opposed to, did he actually make the statement that there is no absolutes? I don't remember hearing him say that.
Yes, he did.
Maybe I didn't hear it. Okay.
Yeah, but again, that was a projection on 10th Man from his way of having a synthesized reality.
A projecting 10th man. My goodness. How are you going to weasel out of the next one? This is great.
There's no weaseling here, man. I'm being to the point. I'm asking you a specific question.
I know exactly what you did.
You've yet to answer.
You got caught. You're embarrassed. Well, I was only projecting what 10th Man believed.
So, can I ask a question? What's ether?
Neil, it would be over your head, Neil.
The next thing we can do is say for certain that there is no certainty. Let's do that next.
That's an add-on, number one. Number two, I'm not stupid enough to believe in that.
There's absolutely no certainty.
You get that, die slow or just slow, like Nathan renamed you, because you are just slow. That's not an add-on. That's a fact proven today.
Uh-huh. Nice feeling.
Could I state just quickly, I know, sorry if you want to talk die slow, that the more aggressively we treat, let's say, die slow or anyone else who believes in ether, as opposed to just direct, honest questions, and that keeps ether alive, because it ends up being smart answers to smart questions, if you know what I mean. It's like just honest questions, and if the person you're asking doesn't answer honestly, then it's obvious that either they won't answer for a good reason or they can't answer.
Was that a dig at me?
That's my point.
Was that a dig at my aggression towards them yesterday? I mean, I've stepped totally off today.
No, I'm just saying in general. I'm not you personally. No, I know you get angry when you're dealing with nonsense. But the nonsense builds as well when you are. I find that all the time when you're aggressive with someone that you're debating with, they end up being defensive. So their reply is aggressive or what's the term? Passive aggression. This kind of thing. So
I know what you mean.
Yeah, combative. Yeah. So it doesn't get to the root, if you know what I mean. That's what I'm saying.
Well, let me do that.
Avoidable all the time.
I don't know. Me yelling at that guy yesterday when he was claiming that magnets cause star rotation, and we broke it down to a cause and effect relationship, and asked him if the stars were going to stop. That was the point when I took it to absurdity and just got really irritated. But not because I was particularly actually that irritated. It was more for dramatic effect, as you probably appreciate. But I'm just trying every tact with them. So today, totally standoffish. Tomorrow, it'll be a different tact. I don't know which method's going to get through to them.
The listener will listen to this whole show, realize it started off real good. I asked Islo a question. It went on to Adam having to rephrase simple questions over and over and over. Can you rephrase that? Okay, and so it gets to.
I don't understand his accent too well.
I'm in the middle of talking. Thank you.
You needed to get the excuses in again, though.
Yeah, but I'm going
to understand that about you.
I'm in the middle of talking.
just on that one, Tim.
I guess I was in the middle of talking.
Yeah. But you're making a good point to jump into. So I'll pick muting now.
All right. So
I'm sorry, just going to say, I didn't understand a word of that.
I'm going to turn it over to the emissary when I'm done, and because he is the emissary. So when someone keeps saying, can you rephrase, when all of us keep hearing it, we say, oh, he's running from it. Okay, let's see. Where's he going to go now? And then he jumped into saying, it was one of these subtle ad-homs. I'm not into feelings, thoughts, and beliefs, meaning we are. And we're the exact opposite of feelings, thoughts, and beliefs on this show. And so I saw that as desperation move on Die Slow. So I brought that up again. And so then he has not answered the question since he's been here. What is ether? He's a quick, I can't even say the word, as Kiwi said, to 100 other ether beliefs. Well, if it's not that one, it's one of the 99. Well, if it's not one of that one, it's one of the 98. Yeah, but what is it? Well, it's not manifested, but I could bring magnetism and wind. I could use wind blowing through a tree leaf to kind of say what I think it is. Okay, that's fine. But what is it? Well, we can't manifest it.
I can tell you.
Is there wind in space?
Hold on. Before you do, John, I just want to get Adam's 2 pennyworth. Can you keep it slow and deliberate so we can understand what you say, please?
Yes. In all of my time on Flat Earth Debate and other YouTube channels, seriously, that's the first time ever anybody has ever said you're not understandable. Your accent is too strong. I mean, I know I dropped the odd H here and there, but really? That's the first time. And interesting that the first time somebody can't comprehend my accent is when I can't comprehend what the hell they're on about with regards to stuff that they're not able to explain or differentiate on. It was very telling to me, that.
Yeah, I didn't understand a word of that. With that, though, I will say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And, of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
lovely day.